Good evening, booze. Happy Thursday. It's colder than hell outside. I hope you're staying warm. I'm trying to, but I don't know. I don't know. Right now it feels like 5 degrees outside, but I think they're lying because it feels like -5 at least. And when I tell you guys, like, the fluid inside my eyeballs freezes when I go outside, I'm not kidding you. It takes me about 20 minutes for my to start seeing again when I come back inside. So it's been fun. School got canceled today, and about I think it was like 3:30, 4 o'clock. They decided that they were gonna cancel school tomorrow already, today. They're like, "Yeah, we're not even gonna worry about it." Like, "Nope, we're not even gonna try to have school." So, I love winter, but I think it's cold everywhere, so I'm not gonna complain because I think everybody's gonna get hit with this one, and I feel bad for you guys because at least I'm sorta prepared for it. Like, I'm used to cold and well, I don't like it, but I'm used to it. So but guess what day it is today? Other than Thursday, and, freeze your arse off day. It is oh, wait, hang on. Gotta pop it up here. Maybe. Why is it not letting me pop it up? No, not the lemon. It's National Answer Your Cat's Questions Day, and I've been asking Tansy and my other kitties questions all day. The only one they answered was, "Are you hungry?" And then I opened a can of food, and they all all of a sudden, all of them. When I say all of them, I mean, like, all 25 of my cats, because I am a crazy cat lady. That's how many I have. Kidding, I don't have 25. 15. No, I'm just kidding, I don't have 15 either, but yeah. So, everybody go if you have a cat, go ask your cat and see if they answer you. If they do, maybe it's time they answer you. You need to get yeah, that cat's gonna be famous someday. So and it's also because I always feel bad. I leave the guys out, and I know there's guys that subscribe, and I know there's guys you guys come in the chat, and I always feel bad for Stevie. I know he's not our only guy, and I did something for you guys. So it's supposed to be Manuary. This made me laugh, so I'm sorry. Um, oh, this was a good one. I mean, I think every month is pretty much your guys' month, right? I think women have one, and that's called, that's Women's Health Month. I think that's all we get, right? But you guys have pretty much the rest of the year, right? Um, but anyway, so guys, embrace your manhood, become a lumberjack, grow a beard. Uh, yeah, go embrace some new challenges in life. Be your best self. And I just wanted to put that out there for you guys because I do feel bad that I don't bring enough for the men on here when I saw that. So hopefully you guys are growing your beards because if, ever there was a time to grow beards, now I would if I could. I'm gonna let my leg hair grow out. I don't think I'm gonna shave until spring. I'm gonna look like Sasquatch by by the end of this, guys. It's just not gonna look good. But hey, my legs are gonna be warm and my nose is very itchy. What's that mean if your nose is itchy? I know palm means you don't wash your hands. I mean, no, I think itchy palms is money, right? So what's an itchy nose mean? Somebody's gotta know. Should we Google that? All right, guys, I'm gonna pop into chat and say hello to everybody. I got a lot tonight. At least I think it's a lot. It seemed like it. I think this is gonna be a part 1 because I didn't finish the book that I'm gonna tell you guys about because I started reading the book and oh my goodness. And oh no. Okay, hello, Sibs. Who is this? I don't know this. Do you want me to somebody did this on purpose. I know who this is. I just don't know who it is. Can I call you Boris? Can I call you Boris now? Because I like that. Oh, we need a Boris in the chat. Hello, Boris. Oh gosh, yeah, it's cold. It's cold as hell. I have that WT forecast app, and it's a little it's got some dirty comments on it, and I like it. It's funny. Um, but one of them was really funny. I don't know. I'll read it a little bit later because, kids might still be up. Mine's up, but he probably won't. I mean, he's 17. He's heard worse than this already. And Boris says, "Make an Amazon wish list for ski goggles. That's how I keep my eyes from freezing." That's a damn good idea. Why haven't I thought of that before? Probably because it hasn't been like, I mean, I think my kid told me, and I'm sure he's just messing with me because he likes to do this, like, tell me things and then I'll go look it up, right? And then I'm the idiot. But yeah, he told me it was warmer in Antarctica, and I had to tell him, I said, "We're living in Antarctica, so I don't know how much warmer." But yeah, what was it? The temp, I just looked at it before we started. Um, I'm just gonna say this. Everybody's heard these words before. They're not naughty, naughty, but, so it's 18 degrees. We're supposed to get as low as 0 tonight. Feels like 5 degrees, and it says, okay, guys, if you don't wanna hear this, put your earmuffs Stevie, put your earmuffs on. It says, "Your vagina will freeze. If you have balls, you will grow a vagina, and it will freeze." I think that's the best one I've ever had come up on there, and I love it. Yes, I'm gonna look in those those goggles because so I plowed my driveway yesterday, and it wasn't so bad, like, the upper part of my driveway, but, like, the driveway, it has a little curve in it, and then it kinda dips down where the house is. We sit kind of in, like, a little, what the hell you call it, a hollow? I don't know, holler? I don't know. But, I plowed it all, and it looks so pretty, and it looks so like, I was like, "Damn, I'm getting to be a professional at this." I might, like, get a that might be my winter job is gonna be plowing. I think I might get a plow truck. I think I will, because I think you could make a lot of like, this winter, I could be rolling in the cash right now, just all cash operation, just be like, not claim that well, I just ruined it because now the feds are listening, so I know they're listening. They're always listening. Uh-oh, Darlene says, "Sissy's trying to rip her." Well, ask her some questions, Darlene. Maybe she's got answers for you. I tried to ask Tansy's, like, questions of the universe, and she's just like, "Lady, I'm a cat. What? Leave me alone." But, "Can you see who I am? I changed my handle, but did it wrong." Well, nope. Now you're Boris. So, um, let me guess. If I guess it right, do I get something? Um, is this clips? I'm just guessing. I don't know. I only got, like, about 15 of you guys that, that I can choose from. So, oh, what's tonight about? We are gonna go to New Orleans tonight, guys. So get your beads out, or if you wanna get some beads, get some other things out. But no, no, I'm not doing any of that. Uh, I've never done that. I'm a good girl. My grandma might listen. So, yeah, important. That's I'm growing by, but, oh, wait, wait. Is this equal? Is this haircuts? You can't stop changing your name. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna the nose hair. My nose itches when someone is thinking of me. Is that what the nose itching means? No, it means a nose fight? Well, I think I cover like, the only thing left of me, like, exposed, right, is, like, here, just my eyes. And like I said before, I, like, rub that Vaseline all over me because I don't wanna get windburn or any of that stuff, right? And, um, it didn't help. I came in and, like, right here, my face was just all red because it's just too cold outside. So I have to go do chores, like, in spurts because it's just too damn cold. But the barn isn't so bad. Like, the horses, I've managed to get their bale of hay, like, right up by their door, so they're all pretty much standing inside the barn eating their hay. So they're all very happy right now. And all the birds inside, almost all the ducks, the smart ducks, which that's kind of almost like a yeah, ducks aren't usually smart, but most of them have come into the barn. They've figured it out now, and I'm so happy that we took the time this summer to get the big holes or, at least those covered up, even though there's still some small ones, so but yeah, and here I am, I said, "We need to get started tonight," but I've got all night, guys. We could do this till 6 in the morning, but I still have to read the rest of the book, so we can't go I can't yeah, yes, Boris, I like it. Boris is good. We need a Boris in the chat, yes, Boris. Everybody's saying hi. Alright. Did I guess right, Boris? Did I guess the right person? I know you guys can't play games with me because 'cause I'll sit up here like, forever. Nope, there's clips, so, okay, alright, I know who Boris is now. Clips is here. I'm here. I'm picking up my boy from work. Oh, guys, my kid hasn't left the house in like all week. He's gotta get out of here. And he's so happy because exams were supposed to start today. So now he doesn't have to take exams till Monday and Tuesday. Yay for him, but for mom. My better half is from cold Russia. He got an apartment, turned out no heat on the top floor. Better half didn't care. There was ice inside, but he was used to it. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine that. But I've heard that. I watched a YouTube video. There was a lady, she's like, "What it's like to live in Russia," and I was like, "Mm-mm, can't do it. Can't do it. I can't even imagine." And I think it's cold here, but we come inside and it's nice and warm, right? Because we've got heat, but I don't think they all have heat, and like, I can't believe that. Yeah, yep, all the birds are warm. Well, the 2 banana and the sister chick are very warm because they actually have a cage inside, so because 'cause they're little, little butts, they scream and peep at me because they flick all their food outside the cage, and then they sit there looking at me like, "Um, where's our food, lady?" It's not really banana, it's the other one. So there's a white one and a black one, and I'm not being racist when I say this, but that little black one, he's smaller, gets into all kinds of trouble, can't do anything, like and she's just a little and, like, I'll go to pick her up, and she just starts screaming. And, like, when I say screaming, I don't mean quacking not quacking, but, like, peeping or like a chicken, right? Like, she screams, and, like, the dogs get all excited because they think somebody's being murdered. All hell breaks loose in this house. Ever try Aquaphor? That was a lifesaver for my sensitive skin babies with the like that, the baby cap stuff. Aquaphor. I think I have some, but it's so heavy and greasy, and I break out like. Ugh. I try not to put anything really thick on, but the Vaseline seems to be about the only thing that I can use on my face, which doesn't make me break out afterwards, but, I might have to resort to it if this winter keeps up like it is, but either that or I've just gotta go get those goggles. I think I might. I think I'm gonna get some ski goggles. I mean, I do wanna get some thermal not thermal. I have thermal underwear, though. Those are handy. Oh god, they're so warm. Not as warm as a pair of heated underwear would be, but those might short out. What if like, somebody scares me out in the barn and I pee on myself? Woo! Yeah, that could be dangerous. Yeah, that was probably too much information for y'all, but you never know when somebody's gonna sneak up on you. I'm very easily like, if I think I'm all alone, and I have my earbuds in when I'm out in the barn, so I'm listening to music, and they're noise canceling. So, like, if the kid walks up behind me, like, and I'm thinking I'm out there all by myself and somebody touches me, oh, hell. Like, ready to fight, and it's just like, "Yeah, don't do that stuff to me." So, I might I might. I might scare myself so badly I pee my pants, but hello, Jen. Everyone, I had a date, and I think it went well. Hope you all are Ooh, Jen's getting romantic. How did it go, Jen? Tell us. Ooh, let's live vicariously through Jen. Even if I had a date, I couldn't leave the house, so, unless he was Santa, he could fly here on my roof. Oh, Jen's getting woohoo. I'm so happy for you, Jen. We'll all live vicariously through you. How's my sound? I think I'm sounding I might be getting too close again. I think I gotta be back here. All right, let me try this. All right, I'm gonna pop down here because I do wanna get started. I wanna tell you guys who we're talking about. This is this is probably one of my favorite stories from so I've been to New Orleans quite often. I've been enough now where I've pretty much got all the ghost tour stories memorized, but I still go on them because I enjoy I don't wanna call 'em the tour guides. They're not they're kind of they're actors, they're historians. Uh, yeah, we can say that. They're historians to a degree. But they just spin those same old stories, but then they put their own little embellishments on it, right? And they're fantastic. Some of the ones I've had, it's like I mean, they should be in Hollywood. They're better actors than most actors that I like. They're very good at their jobs. They deserve the tips that they get, which I generally do try to tip them if they're really good. I'm like, "Yeah, you deserve this. You're awesome." Um, but I started to think because having heard the same this is New Orleans is probably the one of the only places I've gone enough to enough of these ghost tours, right, that I've heard the same stories over and over. Generally, like, other places I've been, I don't do the same I'll do it a tour once, and then I'll do something else the next time we go, if we happen to go again. So, I don't repeat them, and this is the only time I do is when I'm in New Orleans. So, I started realizing, I'm like, "You know, are these stories quite are they accurate?" Because we know, like, a good story, especially a good ghost story, right? Like, it's gotta have a little shock value, just a little bit, because just like anything anymore I mean, maybe the old days, people could sit around and just be like, "I heard footsteps, and there was no one there," and everybody in the house would be like, "Oh, you what?" They'd be so freaked out by that, right? Now we're like, "Mm, whatever," right? Like, who cares? They wanna hear more, like, "I heard footsteps, and there was nobody there, and then I was stabbed." That's what the kind of stuff they wanna hear. They don't wanna really right? Like, it's gotta be have a little oomph to it, especially when you're talking about a ghost tour where people are paying, like, upwards of, like, 35, 40, 50 bucks. Sometimes some of them I took one in London that was like 75 bucks or something. Well, I'm sorry, 75 pounds. So I think that would be about a probably about 100 bucks American. So, I mean, it was really cool because you get to see places, but then you gotta I'm always the one that while we're on the tour, like, I've got my phone, and I don't like to do this, but, like, I'll Google if I can, and if I can't, as soon as I get back to my hotel, right, like, I'm like, "Okay, I wanna what's this real story?" And I'll look it up. So, Madame Delphine Lalaurie is one that I have been looking into for a very long time, and, can I anybody been to New Orleans in the chat? Everybody put, I don't know, put a little ghost in the chat if you've been to New Orleans. And I'll keep talking, but I'll wait for you guys to put your your little ghosties in if you've been, and you don't have to have been on a ghost tour or anything like that, just if you visited. I'd like to know because maybe you've already heard some of this story. Um, Jen says, "I never have high hopes. Don't fret, you're all stuck with my hands." Yeah, he can't take you away from us, Jen, or her. I don't wanna put like, I Um, but whichever. Um, yeah, you can't leave now. You've been indoctrinated into a cult. We can't get out. There's only one way out. Darlie's, like, demanding. I think you're talking about Sissy, not me, right? Um, Dims were forcing small farms to use electric heat in barns in winter, part of my theory why DJT got elected. I don't know, I would never put an electric heater in my barn. Hell no. So yeah, not gonna happen. Not with hay. Mm-mm. I don't care what any president would say, so nope. Um, and yeah, that gets to me because I don't want my freaking barn burning down with my animals in it. No, because they're stupid. They really are. Horses won't run through fire. They won't. They just stop. And honestly, it's not so much the fire, but the smoke. Horses only breathe through their nostrils. They don't breathe through their mouth. So when that smoke goes through their nose, smoke inhalation, right? Like that's what usually gets you in a house fire. It's going to get you long before the flames will. And that's pretty similar to animals in a barn. They're not gonna I mean, it's just not gonna be terribly long for them inside the barn. I'd never wanna have that happen. I've never had a barn fire, never want one. So, Darlene said so the aquifer is am I saying it right? Aquifers, those things in the ground, right? Ugh, I'm pr uh, I don't know, guys. You're probably all getting Um, oh, and I do have, I have poison ivy, you guys. I don't have eczema or psoriasis. I actually have poison ivy, and it's from the hay in my barn. Apparently, there's some in there. But my doctor's like, "Can you come in?" And I'm like, "When it gets bad enough, I will," but I'm all like, it's not even that itchy anymore, and it looks like it's kinda starting to go away. So that old Uh, what is it that let's call it a legend that redheads don't get poison ivy. That's bullshit. We do. I don't get it often. Like my whole family has broke out with it before and I've not got it. I've had boyfriends with it that I didn't get it from them, right? Like cuz you can transfer that stuff really easily. I don't get it very often. I think I had it like once or maybe twice as a kid and it wasn't even that bad. It was like a little patch. But I was warm out in the barn and a little sweaty. So I think it just yeah. So if it doesn't start looking a little better, I am gonna have to go to, like, urgent care or something, get some steroids, but, oh, what uh, Oscar Wilde is there a new tragedy with Oscar Wilde? He's been gone for a long time, but I love Oscar Wilde. We have to do maybe I should do his story sometime. I think we could. I love his grave. Um, uh, I sound lovely. Oh, now I know you're lying, Jen. You're all hopped up on endorphins from being out on a hot date, so alright, here we go. I'm gonna scroll down here. Gettysburg is on my list, guys. Okay, did you guys answer my question? I hope you did. If you've been to New Orleans, I'd like to know. And if you've been to New Orleans and you've been on one of these ghost tours that I'm gonna talk about, um, stick your hand up. I don't know. We'll figure out some way. I don't know. Somehow let me know that you've done it because maybe you've heard this story already and yeah, already. I'm still gonna repeat it though for everybody else that hasn't been there. Gettysburg, seriously, just stay on your own and do your own and you get stuff. Um, I wanna go this summer. I'm gonna go do, like, a little weekend trip if anybody wants to go hang out. I like to walk around by myself, but, like, meet back places, right? Like, go out for a few minutes, like, on your own and then meet back up kinda situation. Because yeah, I don't wanna run into any weirdos or anything, but God, Gettysburg has been on my list for so long. I'd really like to knock that one out this summer, and I know it's probably gonna be mad crazy there in during the summertime, but I still wanna go. I don't care. Just some of the videos I've seen, there's no, like, I can't think of any other reason for them except that it's yeah, if there's a place that's gonna be haunted, it's gonna be battlefields, and I have another battlefield I wanna talk about that I have visited, and I had an experience there, and it happens to be where I always forget how many times back he is, but he died during the opening days of the what did the union called it? I think it's, damn it, I gotta look it up again. But anyway, he died on this is one of the very first, um, battles of the Civil War, and it happened in Missouri down near Springfield, where Springfield is, and he died on the first day, and it was mass chaos, it was horrible, and some of the things that happened to these men, so, yeah, uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, my poison ivy. It's not that bad. It's okay, guys. I'm not gonna die from it. I did think I was. I thought I was gonna die after looking at it at WebMD, but no, I'm pretty positive that's what it I gotta stop touching it because I don't want it to get any more because it's calmed down, like, a lot with the calamine and everything, so let's stay there. But, yeah, go figure, middle of winter, but it must have just been in the hay or something. Hello, morgue. It's salute ya, Colonel. I was excited about the exploding trees, but apparently they don't really explode from freezing. I know. I've lived in Michigan. I grew up here. Yes, I've lived other places, but never once has a tree ever exploded. And I've lived further up north in Michigan too. It's never happened. I think they were telling these 2 guys, they're YouTubers from the UK, and they're over here right now making all these stops, in the US, and they're in Michigan right now. They were actually in my hometown for, like, 2, 3 days, I think they were here, and everybody was just going apeshit about it. They just were like, "Oh my god, they're here," and I'm like, "You guys, I'm a YouTuber, and I'm in town all the time. Nobody gets excited." But, yeah, so they've been following it keeps popping up on everybody's posted it on Facebook, and I'm just like, "I'm just gonna stay off Facebook till they're out of Michigan," but now they're all the way up north, so I'm not seeing as many posts, but I'm like, "I've never heard that." I said, "I think somebody's screwing with you guys," and it worked because they did. Yes, Jen, you wanna meet up at Gettysburg? Let's do it, guys, let's do it. Let's have our first, cult, meetup at Gettysburg. God, so I wanna stay in Gettysburg too, like, get an Airbnb. Oh my god, that'd be so awesome. Okay, alright. I think we're all weirdos. I think there's a reason that we're here. Wilson's Creek. Thank you, Jen. Yep. I like Civil War stuff too, but when I'm up here, my recall is not so fast. But yeah, so like my three-time great grandpa, and I talked about this like once before. Like all the guys in their little community, I wouldn't even call it a town. They all went, and the oldest son and like his brother, and like I mean, all these young men, and the only people left in the town were the women and young boys and, of course, the girl children, right? Who nobody cares about. And the youngest son happened to be my grandpa, or else I probably wouldn't be here. But yeah, they were there, and oh my god, I'll have to talk about that one because that's the one I probably know the most about just because I've read so much about it and they've been there, and but it oh, forgot. Hi, Stevie. So yeah, Jen, we have to get together because we were talking about Abe too, and we have to talk about Abe's, grave robbers and Abe Lincoln because that's an interesting one too, and how many times they keep looking in there, like, well, they can't anymore, but just like, God oh, you know what? Darlene, I have witch hazel. I might try that after this because I need to put some more on it after we're done here. Um, and Gettysburg, I need a spa, hot tub, sauna, time masseuse, and I will go. I'm sure we could find a place with a hot tub. I'm sure, right? They gotta have one around there. I mean, I don't know, I'm a little afraid of Pennsylvania after everything I've been hearing. Oh, shoot, I do have to give an update. Sorry, I gotta keep the lip balm on my lips or they're gonna stick together. But, so our speaking of Pennsylvania and grave robbers, our unsavory character, Mr. Gerlach, his preliminary hearing has now been postponed until March 13th. He did not appear in front of the judge on it was supposed to be Tuesday, right? And I was looking for information and nothing came up. That's because he didn't actually appear. He is they were waiting for more charges for him. And I think it has to do with the Good Shepherd mortuary where he is suspected of removing the 2 corpses from there. The lady that we talked about and, Mary Piga. I think it's Piga or Pi I'm horrible with names, you guys know that, so, yeah. I think it might be Piga. That might be probably the proper pronunciation of it, but so, I think they're looking at him for those, and they're just going to wait until all this other stuff, but I'm starting to wonder too if, the feds are gonna step in since he did transport things over state lines and things of that nature, so, yeah. So March 13th, I've got it marked on my calendar. There's not gonna be any updates on his unsavory characterness until then, so we don't have to talk about him for a little while. So we can get him out of our hair for a little bit, but, oh gosh, okay. Um And Jen says, "Civil War is my jam." Yeah, oh my gosh, a great-grand uncle that's we gotta get together. Yeah, let's get together, Jen, 'cause it's so cool, yeah. Alright, so nobody's been to New Orleans that's in the chat, and if you're just not gonna tell me. It's alright, guys, I'm not gonna dox you. I just started to itch. God, 'cause I started talking about it, I knew it. Um, and wait, who's in the hospital? Did we put somebody in the hospital already? No, I haven't been talking that long, have I? Alright, guys. So I do is March 13th, Friday the 13th? Mm, I hope he's getting haunted. That's all I care about. Alright, let's stop. I know, stop it. Thanks, Darlene. I really seriously almost put oven mitts on my hands and duct taped them because I just knew I was gonna do this. As soon as I start thinking about it, yeah, I keep covering myself up, like, I keep wearing my T-shirts that go up high, and you can even see, like, I got a little couple little spots here, but guys, I know. Um, and we're gonna talk about Mr. Nick Cage, you guys. So you do see, John, you haven't been, but you do know a little bit. So if anybody knows anything about the Lalaurie Mansion, you guys can put a hand up in the chat. I'd like to know that. But yeah, it's supposed to be haunted AF, and I want to dig into it because these are the kind of stories that I really want to focus on, but they take a little time. Just because, like I said, I started reading a book, and for me to sit down and read the whole book and still pull up photos and get some background things ready for you guys, it takes a little bit. So, and I still wanna do the 3 days a week, so it's a little hard. So I think that's why I'm gonna do, like, a part 1 and then a part 2, just because I didn't get to finish the book because it was so good, but my eyeballs were like and I had to take a nap. I just had to take a nap today because I had to get up early, water the horses, and then I go back out and chip the iceberg out of the horse tank. I mean, I'm serious. It was like the size of the one that took down the Titanic. It it was bad. So, with that, these are the stories I do wanna get into because you hear these stories on when you take these ghost tours, right? They're always a amazing. Like, I've listened to them, like, when I was Like, I've always been into the paranormal. I've always loved a good ghost story. Like, I've always loved them. And I never really thought about the people behind the ghost stories. Like, okay, so tonight we're gonna talk about Delphine Lalaurie, and I'm gonna really get into who she was. And at the end, I hope we can decide how much we can say is truth and how much we can say has probably been, embellished and snowballed. Like like I said in the description for the show tonight, I said that, it's like a game of telephone sometimes with some of these people in history. You you have a perfectly normal person. Maybe they weren't the nicest person, or maybe they were a good person and then like, just it gets stretched out. Suddenly they become a saint or they become demonic, like they're the worst person in the world, right? Because when you hear the story of, Madame Lalaurie, it's awful. And when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh," like, my first tour down in New Orleans, we go on this ghost tour, and we're standing outside the Lalaurie Mansion, and I'm looking up at these windows, and I'm like I felt like I mean, it does. It's got a creepy atmosphere. I'm not something's not right about it, and I'm standing up there looking, and granted, yes, I'd had a few hurricanes that day, so my I'm not gonna say what I was feeling wasn't because of that. And that was before I definitely did not drink before, but I was young. It's like I was like 21 or something like that, so forgive me. But I seriously felt like looking up at these windows that there were, like, people looking at me, not like a person, but like multiple little eyeballs, like, looking at me. That's what it kinda felt like looking up at all these windows. And you hear the story that the tour guide tells, and it's just like, "Oh my god, this is crazy. How could this have happened? How did people let this happen? Like, how did people not see this stuff going on and not say anything, right?" And then I kept that in my head for so long, and then my next trip, I came down and I was like I went with friends, and I'm like, "Come on, let's go do the ghost tour again." And, of course, every ghost tour in the French Quarter, goes to the Laurie Mansion. It just does. All of them do, because it is the high point, like I said. And couple of these times, I did not enjoy any hurricanes prior to or any other kind of alcohol, and I still got those vibes off of it. Like, even walking past during the day, there's just something about it that just doesn't quite feel welcoming. Like, I look at some of the like, go walk down in the Garden District, and you walk past these, I mean, just absolutely beautiful houses. If you guys know Anne Rice, uh, the home she lived in while she lived in Louisiana, it's down in the not French Quarter, I'm sorry, it's down in the Garden District, and it's gorgeous. The book that she writes about in the First Street house that she writes about in the Mayfair Witches, she styled it after the house that she was living in, and it's beautiful. I will get video of it when I come out. I'm gonna show you all this stuff, guys, when I come back. Well, probably even while I'm down there, I'm gonna show you, and it's just gorgeous. So, I've been outside of that house several times, and no, I never got to meet Anne. I wish I had 'cause, she's one of my favorite authors, and I did not feel any of that from that house, and I've read books that make that house haunted as F, right? Like, in the books, if you read The Mayfair Witches, that house is all kinds of haunted, right? But in reality, I've stood out in front of that house several times, and I've never got that feeling from it, and there's other very pretty little places up in the French Quarter you walk past, and you don't get that feeling, but there's something about that house, and I don't know if it's just so many people have been there for over and over, right? And, like, the story has maybe taken on a life of its own because it's been a tour stop forever. They've been started to write about this house as early as 2 years after the fire that burned down the original Lalaurie Mansion, because the house that's there right now is not the original, though they would like you to think that. So we're gonna tear this apart, and I hope you guys like to do this because this is kinda where this is what I do when I'm really bored. I like to pick stuff apart. So that's what we're gonna do tonight, and I hope you guys are here for it, and it's gonna take a little bit, like, we're gonna pull some stuff apart. I've got a couple story I gotta stop itching. It's really itchy though right now. Okay, so we're gonna tear some of these stories apart, and when you see some of the places that, I'm gonna show you some time for a drink. Alright, let me go back up here, because I missed a couple things. Boop, 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 boop. Um, never went, but I organized an art supply rally for NOLA after Trina. I lived in Dallas just after well, when Katrina hit. And we took in a lot of pets that, people that had to relocate up to Dallas for a while, we took in their pets because a lot of the places that they had to go stay, like hotels and things, weren't letting them have their pets. So, I just remember and I was so terrified because I'd been down to New Orleans several times before that, and I was just like, "Oh, I hope everything's okay," because I loved it so much, and I worried about the people too, guys, but I really did worry about because I love it's probably one of my, in this country, it's one of my top towns, cities to go to, and maybe not New Orleans so much as, like, the Garden District and the French Quarter, because there's just something magical about it to me, and I love it. It's never gonna change. I just love the place. There's so many exciting stories that I don't think they really need to embellish things. I think the place could speak for itself. The energy alone there, right? The energy is going to be all over the place. The whole town. I mean, it's lives have been lived there, murders have happened there, all sorts of crazy things have happened. And even the Lalaurie Mansion had a death occur in it long after Madame Lalaurie, long after her. So we're gonna talk about that too. And Ernie says, "They say that alcohol lowers your threshold to the afterlife veil. That's why they call it spirits. They possess you. It opens you up and allows them in. But when you think you see something and they ask you and you tell them that you've been drinking, right? They're like, "Oh, well, she was drunk. That's why you saw it." Right? Like, it really does take down your credibility quite a bit. So, but yeah, I think it does I think you have to be very careful. I do not recommend ever going ghost hunting. I don't recommend going on these ghost tours and being drunk, or even maybe even just a little bit. Have your, like, what is that from Harry Potter? Best have your wits about you. Like, just be we've been talking about being safe around these things, right? This is one of those areas. It seems like it's probably not that big of a deal. You can't go into the mansion itself, but people have had things happen outside, especially that's what the tour guides say. I'm gonna trust them that they've had experiences, so I'm not ever gonna discount an experience. And hello, Tiff. I don't think I said hello to you, so I'm sorry, Tiff. Darlene says, "I have 4 of her books on my dresser right now to read." I love Anne Rice. I have all of her books, all of them. I love them. Alright, let me pop down. Stevie was way up there at the top, Ernie. He's probably got his earmuffs on already. Um, maybe it has been cleansed. I don't know. There's some places I don't know. I think if you've got so much history in a place and so many lives have passed through it, if it's old enough, I wonder if you can ever, like, really sage cleanse a place enough. to where no activity will happen. I don't know if that's possible. It'd be interesting to see what you guys think because I think I just think it's just absorbed into the structure itself, into the ground. Like that's just my thoughts. Um, and Darlene says he's somewhere he's somewhere in here. I'm gonna scroll down. And Mark says there are ways to determine what parts of a story or person's history are true, but none of that will work for any of the supernatural elements or anything paranormal, everything else. So we're going to talk. I'm going to include some of the paranormal, like some of the claims that have been made, but I'm not going to go too deep into them. I'm going to tell you a little ghost story. And then I'm gonna tell you, some info from one of the tour groups. I'm not gonna tell you who they are because I don't want them to get mad at me, but I'm gonna read to you what they have. I probably should link them in the description so that you guys can go look at it for yourself, but, um, I mean, it's not their fault. They're just doing what has been told over and over and over again, right? But we're gonna look at the history of it because I found a book, which I got very excited about. I do that with I love books. So, I got very excited when I this book popped up on my recommended list, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna talk about this." Like, I've said for weeks now that I want to discuss this, and it just happened to pop up in my recommended reading. And this is an older book. This is not a brand new book. So I'm like, "How did this not ever come up before?" So, it came up right about right at the right time. So, odd how things happen like that. Um and Work says surrounding those things can be considered even when there isn't a physical or archaeological evidence for whatever it is. So we're going to talk. I'm going to discuss her true history, Delphine Lalaurie. We're going to talk about her actual history. We're going to find out the records that are available because I did look into the records. I couldn't do the deep dive that this lady did that wrote the book because I'm not writing a book. I'm just doing a little YouTube video on her. So I'm going to trust because everything that so far that she had stated, I was able to find. So I trust that the things that I didn't have time to look into, I'm gonna trust that she's everything is sourced. It's very well done. She includes a lot of the history of the times, and I'm gonna warn you guys now that, and I'm reading your guys' comments. I gotta get talking here or else we're gonna be here till, like, 6 in the morning, so so, um, but yeah, I'm just gonna keep going. But I love you guys, and hello, Girl Ryan. Hey, Booze. Alright, so I'm gonna pop down. Alright, guys, and hello, Mia B. Oh my goodness. Girl, you gotta take breaks, relax, and I'm gonna tell you a ghost story, alright? So let me do that. Let me tell you guys a ghost story. I still haven't figured out how to quite spin my tails yet, but, I know you guys are here for the ride, so bear with me. But I do have let me tell you guys my ghost story because I wanna be a tour guide. I think I would've made a really good one too. I think. I would've dressed up. I would've done if they need somebody to play Delphine Lalaurie, I'll do it, man. I don't care if they throw tomatoes at me. I think that'd be fun. Except she wasn't a redhead though, so I might have to wear a wig, but I'm down for that. Alright, I gotta scroll up. I have oh my god, how many pages did I end up with notes? A lot. And Mia, I have a book for you to read too if you want. I downloaded the digital copy just because it was gonna take like a week for the hardcover to get here, and I don't have time for that. So, alright. So should I pop let me read the story, and then I'm gonna pop up the slideshow for you guys. And I just put this together. Please don't laugh at my writing skills. It's been a really long time since I took creative writing, so, um, alright. So, this is a fireside telling of the Lalaurie Mansion. If you stand on Royal Street long enough, when the French Quarter's quiet, when the laughter thins, when the air feels just a little too heavy, you'll find yourself staring at 1140 Royal Street, the Lalaurie Mansion. From the outside, it looks like so many other buildings in New Orleans. It's elegant, but it's silent, and it seems like it's watching. But this house has a memory, and it has never learned to forget. In 1834, a fire broke out inside these walls. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a tragic accident in a city no stranger to fires. But when authorities forced their way inside, they found something far worse than smoke damage. Inside, hidden inside, away in the upper rooms, were 7 enslaved people. They were chained, they were starved, they were broken, some were dead. The others could barely move, and some were barely breathing. The fire, it said, was set intentionally by a woman chained to a stove in the kitchen. She decided to burn the house down because she thought this is the only way she could make the world look inside. Nearly 2,000 people came to see what had been uncovered. They stared, they started to whisper, and they wanted justice. But justice never came. Madame Delphine Lalaurie vanished into the night, leaving behind a house so enraged, so violated, that the people of New Orleans tried to tear it apart, stone by stone. And yet, the house remained. Over time, the stories grew darker. Some claimed bodies were found buried beneath the floors. Some whispered of experiments of cruelty so extreme it bordered on the inhumane. Historians argue over how much was truth and how much was horror layered on top of horror. But here's the thing about legends in New Orleans: it doesn't survive unless there's something real at its core. And the house never stopped reacting. For nearly 200 years, people have reported strange things here: moaning from sealed rooms, footsteps with no source, a feeling deep and unmistakable that something inside does not want you there. In the late 1800s, the mansion was converted into apartments. One of those tenants was found murdered in his room. Before his death, he told friends he was being tormented by spirits and that a demon lived in the house. Later, the building became a school. Young girls came to their teacher crying, arms scratched and skin bruised. "Who did this?" the teachers would ask. And every time, the girls would answer the same: that woman. They were too young to know Delphine Lalaurie's name, too young to know her face, but somehow they knew her. Modern psychics and mediums all tell conflicting stories. Some say the enslaved spirits have moved on, others feel children still lingering. There's a prankster boy, a nervous little girl, and maybe that's the most unsettling part, because if the victims are gone, what's still answering? Tour guides still tell their own stories, hands tugging at bags when no one is there, streetlights flickering on and off when the name Leia is spoken aloud. As if something inside the house is still listening, still responding. And even today, no one stays here very long. Owners come and go. Fame touched the house. Nicolas Cage once owned it. And then misfortune seemed to follow. Coincidence or consequence? Because in New Orleans, we don't believe places forget what happened to them. We believe they absorb it. brick by brick, room by room. And if you listen closely, standing there on Royal Street, you might hear it too. Not screams, not footsteps, but the sound of a house that remembers everything and hasn't forgotten anything. All right, that's my ghost story. Not really a ghost story. That's my tour guide. That's my I'm gonna put that on my application to become a tour guide in New Orleans. So let me know what you guys think. All right. I'm gonna go up and pop you guys were really commenting. So Mia has been. Have you been on a ghost tour, Mia? If you did answer, let me. Girl Ryan, or is it Girl Ryan's hang on, I gotta get oh, both of you guys have been to Jazz Fest. Oh, I think I went one year. I think that was Jazz Fest. I've been a few times and so I can't remember anymore. We always went about St. Patrick's Day because that was a mini Mardi Gras, and Mardi Gras frightens me because a lot of weird people end up down there, which I'm weird, but I'm not that weird. Um, make me cough. Ryan and I went to Jazz Fest in '98, made out with a guy from Massachusetts. Oh, what a small world. Oh, yep, Ernie, they are, they're funny. Made out okay, alright, I'm gonna skip down. I'm gonna skip down past these. You guys can talk about your boys and he was Tiff, I can't believe everybody needs to go to New Orleans at least once and go to Pat O'Brien's, get yourself a hurricane, go to the piano bar. I hope the piano bar is still there. Somebody tried to tell me Pat O'Brien's closed up, but they're open, and that's where gonna catch this girl there probably almost every night because I their piano bar they had in the basement was so much I love piano bars. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm a boomer. Maybe I've already moved up. My kid calls me that, but I don't think I'm old enough for that. Seriously, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go down. Um, Hello, Rubicon. We're talking about New Orleans tonight. Catch everybody up. All right. Um, how am I still shocked at how awful humans can be? Yeah. And I'm gonna warn you guys, a part of the story that we're gonna talk about does have to do with enslaved people. I'm probably gonna go back and forth between saying enslaved and slaves. It's just gonna be the language of the times because I'm gonna take us back in history a little ways. We're gonna go back to kind of pick apart, um, Madame Lalaurie. And we'll just see, was she a product of her time or was she truly this evil person? Um, all right, let's see. Miss America likes my story time. I love it. I talk to her when Mia falls asleep with me on, I talk to Miss America. She's watching the lives. Um, yep, slaves being used. Some of the stories, like, I've heard just they get like, even now, like, I went and, like, when I first got I mean, I don't even wanna say how long ago. I went down when I was first in college in Dallas. I don't wanna say how long ago that was, but it was a little while ago. Um, the story this is why I know that it's kind of been a game of telephone. It just gets a little bit more to it. Like, it just gets added to more and more. Because the stories that I'm reading now are not what I heard initially, like, the last I don't think I went on one the last time I went down there because I think we started one, and we had a friend that showed up from the airport, and we had to go meet them, so we had to skip out on the ghost tour. So, I didn't get to we didn't end up we walked past the Lalaurie Mansion several times because we had to walk past it to get back to our hotel. But we didn't actually, like, do the ghost tour that time, so I didn't get to hear what the new improved ghost tours are saying about the Lalaurie Mansion. Um, Mia says, "No ghost tour in NOLA," but yes, one in Old Town Alexandria, okay. Look at that. My recall's getting better up here. Pat O'Brien's hurricane, so Oh, that's so oh my god. I know you guys. Yeah, I'm gonna talk to OB about, getting us, check looking for us on the live cams because Bestie and I will be down there, and I'm gonna go find where the live cams are. I know where they are, but I'm gonna go check them out so that I can be down there so she can do that, or I'm just gonna give my channel to somebody for the night, and they can come up here and just play it. Or maybe I can just sit it. What if I could just stream? I'm gonna look into something. Um, yes, girl, right, I love piano bars, dueling I'm such I'm such a geek. I love that stuff. I don't yeah, I'm a weirdo. Alright. Alright, we're down to the bottom here. Alright, guys, I'm gonna pop up the slideshow, which I didn't load, but bear with me, it should only take a second here. I still got the body snatching one up here, but I'll get rid of that. I'm not gonna show you that one again. We're gonna be done with him for a little bit because 'cause we'll talk about another unsavory character from at least this one has a good story attached to it. That guy's just unsavory. I'm just gonna keep saying that. Oh, why does it have to verify that it's me every single time? Uh-oh. Come on, Google. Um, uh-oh. Is it not? Mm. It should have music, like, for when I have to look. What did it just do? Oh, okay, here it is. Sorry, guys. Operator error. It generally is, so bear with me. Says it's processing. What is taking so long? Wonder if it's the weather. Clips, it asks me for my password. It's never asked me for my password before, so I don't know what's going on. I'm just gonna blame the Antarctica, the s what is it? The Arctic winds. Okay, here we go. I want to put this let me do this. Does that make it nice and big? Yeah, that makes it nice and big. Alright. I'm getting the hang of this, guys. Eventually, I'll be a pro someday. Alright, I gotta get my notes, so bear with me. I'm gonna try to keep track of your guys' note I probably won't. So, hang on. Doo, doo, doo. Damn, Nicolas Cage he's all over my notes. I don't can't believe I took that many, notes just about him. What the heck? Crazy. Alright, so this is Marie Delphine Macarty. That is her maiden name, and she looks like she probably was I don't know. I wouldn't call her a beauty, but apparently she was known to be quite the beauty and very stylish. Oh, she looks like she's dressed pretty plain in this portrait. I hope it's an actual portrait of her, because 'cause I've seen fakes where they tell. But this is the Lalaurie Mansion that stands now. This is keep losing my notes, guys. Hang on. I gotta find a way to put these up here that I don't lose them. All right. So the location is 1140 Royal Street, and this is down in the French Quarter. And when it was first built in 1838, I remember that year because that's important. So 1838 was when this house was built, and it was a two-story with the iron fence around the second floor. So at first it was used as a private residence, and it is a private residence once again. It's been used as a school, and it was actually one of the first schools to be integrated. So there were both girls, as they said in the article, both girls of color and white students. and it was also split up into apartments at one time, and now it has the reputation of being, it's infamous for its dark history and supernatural lore. Nicolas Cage purchased the mansion in 2007 because he wanted a unique historic place, because he wanted to write an American horror novel, and he was drawn to the mansion's notorious past and eerie atmosphere. Unfortunately, Nick didn't get to own it for very long because in 2009, the property was foreclosed on. And the novel that Nick wanted to write, as far as I know, it never got completed. And the local folklore says that, Nick Cage's financial troubles at the time, and also some unusual behavior from him, which I think that's just Nick Cage, but okay, maybe it was the house. All of this was linked to a curse that is associated with the mansion. And I'm gonna show you some photos of the mansion. So this is when I think this was right around 1900, early 1900s, and it looks like there's actually, like, a little shop or something down on the bottom. And this is when after they added the 3rd floor to it, and as you could tell, like, up at the very top, there's also, like, a little I don't know what you wanna call that. I'm not into architecture. If somebody knows what that's called, if Stevie's still here, I think he knows architecture. He might know what the heck that is, but and again, I think this is early 1900s as well, 'cause that looks like a horse and buggy right there. At least there's a horse there. Or actually, you know what? That's part of New Orleans anyway, so maybe that's not that old. Here's another old photo. And actually, wait a second. That one might be even older. I think that one's older, because this one has a street light, and it has that top part on the building there, and that one doesn't. So this one might actually be a little bit older than the other photo, and it is beautiful. It is gorgeous. Now this is the only photo I could find of the interior of the house before modern times. Well, at least this is as far as I could get. I probably could find some more if I really started tearing apart the internet, but this is what they're this is the entryway into the house. There's a little dog. I didn't even notice the dog in there. Oh, little chubby bagel. Look at him. Aw. I love when I don't see that. Oh my god, it's Nick Cage. Sorry guys, jump scare. Um, yeah, so there's Nick Cage. He's not looking so good there. Poor Nick. And here's some beautiful photos. I found these on Zillow. Now, I never all the times I've heard about this house, well, this mansion. We're not let's not it's not a house. This is a mansion. I never knew what was on the inside of this. Like, you can't peek into this place. Like, I don't do that anyway because I think that's rude as hell when tourists do that kinda stuff. But, I don't do that. So and I think the bottom floor has, like, heavy curtains or something. I can't remember the last time, but I'll check it out when I'm down there in just a couple weeks. And this is what would be the main entry, and when you go on a lot of the tours, this is where they'll stop right out in front of. And yeah, Tiff, this is why I love, I love Zillow because I'm a nosy Rosie. And these are places, like, if I wanna know, like, what a house looks like or yeah, I'm gonna go there, and I just was kinda like, "I'm just gonna go look," right? And there it was, and I'm like, it's beautiful, but there's some questionable decorating that's gone on here. I don't think these are from Nick's time, but maybe they are. I don't know. It didn't really say when these photos were taken, but, here, I'm gonna try to pop up some of your guys' comments while I'm in here. Mia says he looks like a friend from high school. I look like Steve Jobs? You think so? Oh, Madame Lalaurie. She kinda does. She does a little bit. Um, oh god. I love I love Pat O'Brien's. Um, but yeah, it's just gorgeous, and, I mean, we'll get into this history, and it might not be as might not be any worse than any other house in the South that had enslaved people. So, and Nick Cage no longer owns it, so it is, um I forget who owns it now, but the same person has owned it since Nick Cage, since he bought it on foreclosure, and it is a private house now, and it is yeah, that ceiling is just it's just gorgeous, 'cause Nick is a god. He is, it just when you go to New Orleans, his head floats right over the top of the building. It's really quite the sight to see. Um, alright, face off. Oh my god. Say that. Alright, and hello, TF. Um, and yeah, Tiff, wait till you see the intro oh, did maybe Tiff's probably already ahead of us. She's probably already to the Zillow. Don't get ahead of us, Tiff. Let me show you the photos. It took me a long time. So now this is that same entry that had that little chubby dog sitting in it. This is what it looks like now. I mean, it's not too bad. I mean, it's a little much for me. But I mean, I guess if you're gonna have a mansion, right? It's got it you gotta bling it out. So, yeah. And, yeah, Jen, I think that's the only show that's got to go inside of the mansion, if I'm not mistaken. Like, a lot of other, like, paranormal groups and stuff have been denied. I think Josh Gates is the only one, and of course, I'd let Josh Gates in my house too, so just saying. I know, it is, ugh, it's a little much, but hey, it is a mansion. So here's some I can't remember how many there's like 6 what they call parlors, um, but yeah, but it's a mansion, so it's gonna be a little more high scale. This is definitely not what my log cabin looks like, but, um, they like animal prints in this house, which I'm not big on animal prints because I don't wanna freak my cats and stuff. Now this one I like because I like the purple, and those walls look like they're fuzzy, like they look velvet or something, and I like that. Like, I would love some velvet walls because you could only have that in a billiard room, and I'm gonna assume that's a billiard table, not just like a pool table, but because these are high class people, right? Um, this is probably one of the I don't know, this one's a little much, but I still like it. And TF says, "I recently rebuilt my staircase black and white like that." I wanna paint my porch and my doors and everything, I wanna paint black. Not because 'cause I'm goth or anything, but, I think it'll look really sharp with the logs. But this is I'm not sure, this must be right I guess the bedroom comes with its own, mini bar. Now this I could get. This I want. I think that'd be pretty sweet. And this is the it's not a cellar, I don't think, but, yeah, this I could get. This is probably bigger. This is probably about the size of my whole house. Uh, yeah. Oh my god, yeah. So, or is this the oh, actually, wait, I'm sorry, guys. This is the entry because right there was a door, or at least this is the same, um, viewpoint in that old photo that we saw because you can see down below there's a little door. So, well, not a little door, just a door. But this I like. Again with the animal prints, but hey, yeah, it's kinda cute. I expected the kitchen to be a little bit more, but it's still way better than my kitchen. It's, like, pretty sweet. I'm just gonna pop. I'm just gonna pop through because I could sit here and, like, yeah, talk about this for a long time, but pyramids. Oh, hey, maybe this probably is Nick Cage's. I bet he designed this because there's some pyramids there. Oh, I forgot to put his tomb photo in here. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, there's a dead zebra down there on the bottom floor. I didn't see that first, but I do love stairs, and this is so cool. Um, Upstairs, one of the bedrooms. I'm gonna assume this is probably the master suite. It's pretty sweet. Damn, this place is just huge. Yeah, all of this. Yeah, Rubicon's like, I'd be saging the hell out of yeah, I would, I don't know, Rubicon, I don't know if there's enough sage because I think, this is the room that, yeah, I gotta wonder about red rooms. Well, Mia, you just hang on to your underpants because 'cause I'm gonna tell you what happened in this house. Or actually, it didn't really happen in this house, but it did happen on the property of this house. Yeah, this is a choice. This is a bold choice right here, but something tells me this has Nick Cage written all over it. I mean, you can see yourself in it. Alright, that ceiling. Jen, you had a date with Josh. Did your date look like Josh Gates? I don't know, this looks like something, my grandparents had in their bathroom in the '80s, so I'm not so sure about that, but I love this. This is beautiful. It looks like a speakeasy. I don't know if that's a bed down there at the other end, but it's a sweet bedroom if it is. Alright, this is the most normal looking room. Am I getting close? I think I might be getting close to the end here. Oh, this is the top. I want a balcony. Um, I don't know, Darlene. I don't know if there's enough Palo Santo, Florida water, holy water, sage. I just don't think there's enough. So the house does have a courtyard, and we're gonna talk about this because something did it said that something occurred in this courtyard. This is this is bigger than most hotels I've stayed at. And you wouldn't I mean, from the photos, it doesn't look this big, but when you're there and you're walking around it, it's, like, friggin' huge. But there's the city. Boop, boop, boop. Well, like I said, I think all these tour groups, everybody stops out in front of this house. You can probably imagine, I don't think anybody ever probably they probably don't use the front door. It does have that courtyard, and it has a private garage, so that's probably where if they enter, that's where they go. Boop, boop, and there we go. Okay, this is the book that I didn't just start reading, but I'm about halfway through. But I found this, and this changes my mind on a lot of things, and because of her, the lady that wrote this book can you guys see that okay? Hang on here. Yeah, lots of silk curtains. Um, some of the rooms I'm I like. Some I would change immediately once I moved. And Rubicon, yeah, Nick Cage was getting up to all kinds of business in that one, yeah, I mean, it's a red room. What else are you gonna do, right? Yeah, Mia, that's bad feng shui. I know feng shui, they like red, but I don't think red rooms are part like, right? Uh, really? Je Jen, I would question that because I think Josh is married, like, married, married. Alright. I know that courtyard, there's one at the hotel. I've stayed there a couple times now. There's one like that at the hotel, and oh my god, I love it. It's just yeah, there's something about that, Darlene, creepy and soulless. Well, this is a drawing of her, but, um, I think a lot of photos from those period of time, right? Like, they sat there with their eyeballs, like, they had to I think a lot of us probably would look I definitely would look soulless because I have blue eyes, so mine would look right? They would look probably opaque almost if it's in these old-timey photos, so I'd probably look like that too, darling, but I kinda look like that now in a lot of my photos. I'm not very photogenic, so, I probably look soulless, but yeah. Tombs joined late, didn't the shady stuff happen in the attic, or did I remember that wrong? Well, since you guys some of you have heard some stuff and don't seem to remember it, guess what? We're gonna find out some really cool stuff because I brought it. I think this is gonna be my best one yet. I'm hoping that I don't screw it up. So, I'm gonna take, Madame Lalaurie off for just a second because I'm gonna come back to the book, and I'm gonna pop this off, and then I'm gonna share my screen with you guys because I got a couple articles, and this is you're gonna see where the stories come from. These really horrible bad stories, right? So let me share, I'm gonna share this one. This is from a tour oh god, I don't know. Maybe I should just read this one. Hang on. Because I don't wanna piss off any tour companies just in case I have to ever go to New Orleans and start working as a tour guide. Uh, oh, never mind. I'm just gonna do it. If they get mad, what's the worst they can do? I don't know. I guess they can sue me. Alright, I'm gonna still share it with you guys because I don't wanna read the whole thing. So I'm gonna do this. Damn it. I keep hitting the wrong tab. Alright. Add the stage. There we go. Alright. So this is from as you can see, it's called Ghost City Tours. I'm pretty sure I took one of their tours, and it's called The Ghosts of the Haunted Lalaurie Mansion, and it's I gotta move my one of my tabs out of the way because I keep hitting it when I pop back to StreamYard here. But so this is the Lalaurie Mansion on Royal Street stands at New Orleans' most notorious haunted house. In 1834, a fire revealed the sadistic torture chamber of Madame Delphine Lalaurie, where enslaved people were subjected to unimaginable horrors. Their tortured spirits still scream from within these walls. That's something I want you guys to remember, not because it's so creepy, but we're gonna talk about that's a point that I'm gonna bring up from the book. And hello, Erica. Like Tiff said, yes, allegedly for entertainment purposes. So, the Lalaurie Mansion was home to Delphine Lalaurie. Her story is one of the most popular ghost story on with for the ghost tours in New Orleans, and it is. And she also, if anybody's watched the American Horror Story franchise, I believe it's, Kathy Bates plays Madame Lalaurie, and she does an amazing freaking job. And it says here, yes, Nick Cage owned that's enough haunting for me right there, just that Nick Cage owned this place, but, I'm kidding. But yeah, but he no longer owns the house. So it's considered the most haunted house in New Orleans in the Quarter. Many people believe the ghosts of former slaves are causing most of the hauntings. So for almost 200 years, there have been reports of paranormal activities coming from this house. It shouldn't surprise many that the hauntings are attributed to the slaves that Madame Lalaurie kept on the property. There is a room in the Lalaurie mansion where slaves were often kept, and reports of moaning coming from that room are common. Phantom footsteps echo through the house with regularity. Many people who have stood near the house have reported feeling as if they are taken over by negative energy. All right. So, you guys with me so far? So, there's a dark entity um, inside, and it's probably Madame Lalaurie, right? But despite all the ghost stories and paranormal happenings at the Lalaurie house, it would be folly to assume that all of them can be traced to Madame Lalaurie and her mistreatment of slaves. In 1894, a tenant who lived at the Lalaurie Mansion, that was when the house was converted into the apartments, he was brutally murdered in his room. They found his belongings ransacked. Pardon me, guys, my voice just went out. Hang on. They found his belongings ransacked as if someone had gone through them. The police assumed that he was a victim of a robbery, even though nothing of value was found missing. An interesting account regarding this murder deals with the police interviewing neighbors about his disappearance. One of his friends claimed that he was having problems with sprites in his house. His friend wrote it off as his imagination running wild with him. But he did say to the wait. He did but he did say something interesting. He claimed that his friend told him there was a demon in that house who wasn't going to rest until he had met his end. Um, and there's another one that we should kind of think about because I did look into that one, but I still have some digging to do. So now we're going to go back to when it was a girls' school. So it was just for a brief time. This was the mid 1800s. It was one of the first and very few mixed schools. And when they say mixed, it means they took black and white students, and it was a girls' school. And but politics during the Reconstruction era were convoluted, and surely enough, soon after the school, it was converted strictly to all girls, and then it became an African American primary school. And that's when the physical assaults came to light. So the young girls were saying that they were receiving cuts and bruises, and the teachers would ask them, "Where are you getting them?" And they would just say, "That woman." So these were attributed to Madame Lalaurie, um, because kids aren't gonna lie, especially young girls, right? They're never gonna lie or make up anything, right? And now we come to a medium who came to read the house, and I always take these kinda with a grain of salt, because if I don't know them, I'm gonna kinda side eye them just a little bit, um, until I know who they are and know what they can do kinda situation, but so they had a medium that came there, she read the house, and she just said that there was a lot of sadness and that there was one of the bricked up windows that is bricked up. And she said to the tour guide, "That's not where the little girl fell out of." And I guess this kinda made the tour guide pause a little bit, and sure enough, the tour guide's like, "Yeah, that's not where this little girl fell." And the girl's name in this story is supposed to be Leah, and she fell into the courtyard. And as for the bricked up window, it's probably got bricked up because of some sort of, like, they say interior decorating because they just wanted to maintain, like, the symmetry on the outside of the house, which pretty common. It probably got turned into a bathroom where they didn't want to have a big window or something. But let's see, and I think the medium had said something too. She didn't think that the slaves were the ones that were haunting the house any longer. And let's see. So this is where they talk about the ghost of the little girl. So Leia, apparently she's a little ghost of a little girl that Madame Lalaurie was seen chasing through the house, through the courtyard, and she was going to beat this child. She got her to the top of the house, and I want you to remember this part. She got her to the top part of the house, and we already know that we look at the photos, right? There was 2 stories back in early 1900s. So how exactly anyway, okay, we'll come back to that. I have lots of questions. I think you guys are gonna have a lot of questions too. So, anyway, the story goes, Madame Lalaurie was chasing her because she was gonna beat her, and so the little girl jumped in order to not be punished. So, I guess the little girl thought it would be better to just jump and do that instead of taking a beating from Madame Lalaurie. But hold on to that because that wasn't proven. And then they talk about the ghost tours here. Um, and they just say, Madame Lalaurie, they just talk about her. So they do call her the cruel mistress of the haunted house. And actually, you know what? They have her birth date wrong here. It says she was born March 19th, 1787, but they've got her history here, but I'm gonna save that, and, I'm gonna wait to tell you guys about that because I'm gonna give you the actual history on her. So, this talks about the fire at the Lalaurie Mansion. It was the morning of April 10th, 1834. A fire broke out at the luxurious home of Delphine Lalaurie. The fire destroyed part of the house and brought to light 7 slaves who were starved, tortured, and chained in the upper part of the building. The nearly helpless were carried, I hope I'm gonna say this right, Cabildo, where they received medical treatment, food, and drink. Nearly 2,000 townspeople came to view the victims, appalled by the wretched sight before them. The people began gathering at the Lalaurie mansion in expectation that the sheriff would arrest Delphine. However, the sheriff never arrived. And as the day went on, it became apparent that nothing was going to happen. So the crowd slowly turned into a mob. And Madame Lalaurie managed to escape. She, the story goes, she was able to get into a carriage. She made it the to a boat that took her to Paris. So she escaped all punishment because the police had given her plenty of time to escape. And she is the one, it says the account was soon picked up by national publications. Madame Lalaurie was reviled as a monster, a demon in the shape of a woman, and fury itself escaped from hell. And it says here the fire was ignited in the kitchen of the grand mansion. Allegedly, the fire started on purpose by a slave woman chained to a stove as punishment. The fire seemed to be an attempt at trying to call attention to the deplorable conditions that she and her fellow slaves endured. And now there were stories of these experiments that were done on the slaves. Many of the stories about the Lalaurie Mansion do seem to evolve around some sort of weird medical experiences or experiments. I've read some pretty far out ones. I have I've heard some pretty far out ones. I'm not gonna say any opinions yet. This is one version. It says conditions that the slaves were found in. The story says that one of the slaves had their bones broken numerous times and set into unnatural positions, so that when she moved, her limbs remained crooked and bent, and her gait was reminiscent of a crab. Another slave was said to have had a hole drilled in his head and a wooden spoon sticking out, an obvious attempt to stir the brains of his poor soul. Allegedly, a different person had their skin peeled back to expose the tissue and muscle to the naked eye. I probably should have done a trigger warning for this one. Um, yeah. So trigger warning, guys. Sorry, that's a little too late. But the story also claims that another slave had his intestines removed from his body, wrapped around his naked waist, and another one was covered in honey and black ants and was being slowly tortured. And the lucky ones were found dead and their torture finally at an end. So they do give a little bit of maybe hearsay or fact and a matter of written word. How you guys doing so far? I better pop over here real quick. Um, just save just save judgment. Just save judgment for a little bit. I mean, there's no doubt, I mean, we all know slaves were treated awful. I don't think, I I I know some movies like to portray that, yeah, oh, like, I don't know. Well, shoot, even Gone with the Wind, right? Like, that was my mom's favorite movie. I've probably seen it, like, 200 times, maybe even more than that. Um, when Scarlett, like, she's beating on Prissy all the time, right? And Prissy didn't have a brain in her head really, right? But they always seem like, Mammy was treated with a lot of respect. She was a trusted house servant, but in all actuality, they were slaves. So they never showed in the movie, right, like exactly where they lived, what conditions they had them in, but it probably wasn't any better than any slaves on any other plantations throughout the South. So and probably, yeah, Darlene brings it, it's probably closer to Roots than it is to Gone with the Wind. They did kinda idealize, like, "Oh, it wasn't so bad," right? "It wasn't so bad. Look at Mammy. She was happy. Rhett bought her a petticoat," right? Wasn't it a red petticoat? I think it was? Yeah. So, you have we know it wasn't like that in reality. I mean, were there slaves that were probably very trusted? Yes, but we even know George Washington. Like, he had Billy, his personal slave, he was his manservant, but he really wasn't a servant, right? Because he was forced like, he couldn't go anywhere, it wasn't his choice to be there. So, he really wasn't a servant, he was enslaved. So, there was no options for him. He pretty much had to follow George everywhere he went. But he was trusted and probably treated with a great deal more kindness than, say, the ones that worked out in the fields, because those people were not treated very well. So if we look back and think, yeah, they were treated horribly, the conditions were awful. All of these places, all these plantations in the South should be haunted. That's my opinion. So, should the Lalaurie Mansion be haunted just on the fact that slaves lived there at one time? Probably, because they didn't receive very good treatment at all, ever. And that makes me think, yeah, these could be haunted places. So, I don't doubt that. However, um, is it as bad as what they say it is? Because good for you guys. I read this book, or I'm not finished reading it, but I did go and look up uh, some of these things. Like I went on to genealogy.com and I started looking. I went to look for records because she lived in New Orleans and there are records available. I looked for news stories and I did the same things that this author did. And I found the same articles and I found the same records that she found. So that makes me think if we're finding the same things, we can verify that, yes, Madame Lalaurie owned slaves, but what's the real story behind it? Is it as bad as what they said it was? Because some of this is a little, let's not believe everything we read right here. So this is just because we read it on the internet doesn't mean it's true. And just because it's in a newspaper in the 1800s. We learned this about the grave robbers, right? How the 1800s newspapers like to sensationalize things, right? So, is it possible that maybe they sensationalized some of this? Maybe, maybe. So let's leave. I mean, she still owned slaves. She wasn't a great person. And let's see here. It says here, in the Sunday magazine section of New Orleans Times, February 4th, 1935, they let's see, they had a story that slaves were being experimented on and the mutilation was the result of a spear, sorry guys, smear campaign orchestrated by Monsieur oh god, I'm not gonna pronounce his name. Montreal. I'll go with that, that sounds pretty good. Frost wrote, "Her indulgence of her slave was well told by friends. She would hand half-empty glasses of wine at dinner to the slave who waited behind the chair, insisting that they drink it. Her coachman was fed to sleekness." Frost also provided information on the slave girl, Leah, who was supposedly chased by Delphine through the house with a whip. He stated, based on his information and sources, that, okay, I'm going to read this, but this is not my words. The little negress who leapt from the roof, fleeing Delphine's whip, was actually sliding down a curving banister, playing, and fell, being killed by the marble hallway floor. All right, let's see. Some of this is all right. Here we go. Because I want to go down here. Our ghost tour frequently asked what happened to Madame Lalaurie. After she left New Orleans, we know she went to France. Her ship docked in Mobile before continuing the journey to Paris. Her death is shrouded in mystery, just as her life was. One popular account details her death while hunting boar. That is very unlikely. Does the arrogant Delphine seem to be the sort to hunt game? Other stories report her returning to New Orleans later in life under an assumed name. While historians widely discount this story, there is a reason to believe she could have. According to the Blanc tomb in St. Louis Cemetery number 1, her body is there. So, most likely she died in France. There are records kept in France that show she died December 7th, 1849. More specifically, letters exchanged with her children explain how Delphine desperately wanted to return to New Orleans, but that her children forbid it. "Do you not remember what happened there?" her son asked in one massive, I think it's supposed to be massive, isn't it? Her children, save the one she had with Louis Lalaurie, all lived the rest of their lives with their mother in Paris in the same house. So, whatever the truth, in the late 1930s, Eugene Bax, who served as sexton to the St. Louis Cemetery number 1 until 1924, discovered an old cracked copper plate at Alley 4 of the cemetery. The inscription on the plate read, "Madame Lalaurie, née Marie Delphine Macarty, deceased," I'm just Paris, 7 December 1842, age 6 and something. It's unreadable after the 6th. I think she passed away at age 60. So, and then they talk about, um, all right, that's it for this one. All right, so what do you guys think so far? I like some of the questions I'm seeing pop up here. So, Erica, yes, indentured servants weren't treated much better if you ever got out of um, your servitude, especially the poor Irish. But, yeah, I mean, they probably had it a little bit better, but not much. I mean, they could if they ran away, they'd be brought back as well. Um, Erica says, "I knew an old black lady when I was young. Her grandmother was a slave. She said at that plantation they were treated very well. I know others were not, but the story is pure evil." And it's been right? Like this story, I've heard it. I didn't hear about these when the first few tours I went on, I never heard about like these weird experiments. I heard that the slaves were found upstairs in the attic. So remember that. So there's supposed to be an attic space, and we're going to look at the house again. So there's questions. Like, you can start to see that, okay, things aren't quite looking like the story like, what they're trying to tell in this story, right? There's supposed to be an attic, but there was only 2 floors to this mansion. There were only 2 floors, right? When we looked at it, we saw the old photo, then we saw the newer one where there was the 3rd floor. So, very commonly in these times, the bottom floor would have served as, um, like a store. So, they would have had stores rent out the space below, and then a family would live on the top floor. This is pretty common. We don't have mansions like this in my town, but we do have a lot of old stores still left in our downtown where the family operated a store out of the 1st floor, and then the family lived in the 2nd story. That's what would have happened in this house too. So where did the slaves live then? If they lived in an attic, there wouldn't have been an attic. So where did they find these slaves? So there's a question that I have already. And that was a question I've had for a while when I realized that there were just 2 stories at one point, right? And then we find out, oh, well, they put that 3rd one on. So now I have a question where those slaves, where were they? Where did they find them? The kitchens typically would not have been in the house. I don't know if they made a point of saying where the kitchens were located at that time. A lot of times in these old Southern homes, the kitchens were in like a maybe not like an outbuilding, but they might not have been actually attached to the house because they would have had that courtyard that maybe they would have walked through the courtyard and brought the dishes into the family. So it's not like how we live now where we'd have our maybe our living room on the 1st floor with our kitchen and our dining room, and then on the 2nd floor, we have our bedrooms. That's not really how this house would have been set up initially. Because when did I say this house was built? I gotta pop up my notes again because I already forgot. Um, this house that we're looking at was actually built where did I get it? 1838. The fire happened in 1834. So there's a little bit of a problem here because when Madame Lalaurie's house burned down, it burned down. You see the photo when I popped up here. I'm gonna take their article down because 'cause I'm done with it. I'm done with them. I'm gonna pop up this again. We're gonna look at I'm gonna have to go all the way back, but, um I wanna show do you guys wanna see that photo again? Do you remember the photo from the front page there? I don't know if I have it on I might have it. Uh, no, I don't have it handy, but it shows, like, a w a similar looking structure, and I'm gonna show you that right now. I think I have it. I think it's the first one that pops up, hopefully. Nope, that's her find a grave. Burp, burp, burp. Just ignore these, you've never seen them before. This is actually very close to what the house that Delphine Lalaurie lived in. So this is as you can tell, there is attic space up on top. That was pretty typical. A lot of times the enslaved people or the servants would have slept the house enslaved people. I should make a very a distinct difference. If they worked out in the fields, which this is in town, they wouldn't have had field laborers or anything like that. They would not have been sleeping in the house. The s the enslaved people that would have been sleeping in these would have probably been, like, nannies, the housekeeper, maybe, the cooks, or, the house staff, coachmen, things of that nature. There would have been a coach house, like where the carriage house and that's probably where the coachman and any of that sort of staff would have slept. So they wouldn't have been sleeping in the house. Um, pardon me. Mm, I saw something pop up here, hang on. Um, I'm gonna have to look that one up, Jen, maybe I'll find that. I'll probably get in trouble for playing that one, but I do wanna at least go watch it and see what, 'cause I know I've seen it, but it's been a while. Yeah, nothing surprises me. I'm sure people were not treated well at all. Uh, we know enslaved people were not. Like, their lives were shit. Sorry, I know. I could probably come up with a better word, but, um, yeah, and as long as you got yeah, what Erica says here, as long as there have been more than one group of people, there has been war in humanity. And it yeah, very good point. Um, Stevie likes the house. That was a beautiful house. But this is, here, I gotta pop the comments off just a second so you can see this. Now this says 1831, and that's when this house was built. So it was a very new construction. So the Lalauries, Delphine and her 3rd husband bought this. It had been freshly constructed, it was brand new, it needed some finishing touches, and it needed furnishings, all the fancy stuff. So it was just pretty much a shell. So this is there's no photos or anything of what it was beforehand, but this is a pretty good representation, supposedly. This was in the book. Um, and even in the book, they said, like, you would have had your parlor, things that the family would have done their living on the 2nd floor, and then they would have had their servants, their enslaved people would have lived up in that attic space. I know sometimes the children lived if there was a nursery, it was sometimes in the attic as well, but yeah, and this has you can see the dormers on the top, it's beautiful. I'm not sure, probably not a basement, they may have had, like, a little cellar, but yeah, Darlene, probably not because of the water table, and it is New Orleans, right? Um, I can't remember what did I know I read how much Nick Cage I think he paid, like, 3.5 million for it. And then they bought it in foreclosure for, like, 2.9 million, something like that, so, don't those aren't exact numbers, don't quote me on that, but something like that. But yeah, Darlene, like, they would have had little outbuildings, and this does occupy, like, a pretty good size space. But the mansion that sits there now, it sits on the original footprint, and that seems to kinda get lost in a lot of this. So this house burnt that when it burned down, it burned down. Like, people came because it did have it was a little notorious because there were already rumors, and I'll get into that, of bad treatment of slaves. I'm not gonna say she didn't treat her slaves badly because it seems like, yes, she did. However, people came and we know, like to do weird stuff back then. They didn't have television, guys. They did weird stuff. So they took pieces of the house, right? Like, they took chunks and whatever because this was like, when this house burned, like, you had all these people there, and it was a big deal. So there wasn't really these rooms that they're supposedly hearing strange things going on and screams, those rooms weren't there. This isn't the same house. There wasn't really much left of this house at all, and it sat there like just this rubble, and that's how it was reported, like, 2 years after, the Lalaurie after the fire, it was reported 2 years afterwards that it was just rubble. "Are you gonna come over? I see you looking. Come on." I asked my cat a question today. "Come here. I'm gonna bring you over, and then you're gonna just change your mind." So, alright, I'm just gonna ignore her and let her do her thing here. So, we've already got a couple discrepancies. So, I like to dig things up, and this gets me intrigued even more. So, not the original house. Everything you read says, right? Like, I just gave you one example, but I'm gonna show you another one because this is from the History Channel. which we trust the History I trust the History Channel. I love the History Channel. So let me share this with you. Um, oh, wait, wrong one. I hope this isn't too convoluted. I hope I'm not getting too crazy here, like going in a circle. Um, but boop, boop. Hi, BB. What you want? All right, here we go. So this is did it pop up? No, it did not pop up. All right, there we nope. There we go. So this is from the History Channel. Hopefully, I don't get in trouble for this one either. Um, but this is there's it's just a little blurb. I think there's a video that goes with it, but I'm definitely not gonna play that because 'cause I'll definitely get in trouble. But it says on April 10th, 1834, a fire at the Lalaurie Mansion in New Orleans leads to a discovery of a torture chamber where enslaved workers are routinely brutalized by Delphine Lalaurie. Rescuers found a 70-year-old black woman trapped in the kitchen during the fire because she was chained up while Lalaurie was busy saving her furniture. The woman later revealed that she had set the fire in an attempt to escape Lalaurie's torture. She led authorities up to the attic where 7 slaves were tied with spiked iron collars. After Delphine Lalaurie married her 3rd husband, Louis Lalaurie, and moved into his estate, that's okay. She immediately took control of the large numbers and slaves used as servants. Lalaurie was a well-known sadist, but the mistreatment of enslaved workers by the wealthy and socially connected was not a matter for the police at the time, which that part is true. However, in 1833, Delphine chased a small enslaved girl with a whip until the girl fell off the roof of the house and died. Lalaurie tried to cover up the incident, but police found the body hidden in a well. Authorities decided to fine Lalaurie and force the sale of other enslaved people on the estate. Lalaurie foiled this plan by secretly arranging for her relatives and friends to buy the enslaved workers. She then sneaked them back into the mansion where she continued to torture them until the night of the fire, April 1834. Apparently, her southern neighbors had some standards when it came to the treatment of enslaved people because a mob gathered in protest after learning about Lalaurie's torture chamber. She and her husband fled by boat, leaving the butler, who had also participated in the torture, to face the wrath of the crowd. Also, charges were never filed against Lalaurie. Her reputation in upper class society, though, was destroyed, and it is believed she died in Paris, December 1842. And then that's the end of the History channels. That's the History Channel. They add a little bit of embellishment as well. So, I've got, one more, and this one I think is the best one that I found, except for the book. I'm just gonna share it. Yeah, come here. There we go. And this one is share this tab. This is from Preservation Resource Center of New Orleans. I'm gonna pop it up here. Alright. Uh-oh. Can you guys still hear me? Your browser has lost connection. Uh-oh. Alright. Can you guys still hear me? Let me give you a thumbs up. I don't know what it's doing. Says I'm still going. Okay. Boop, boop. Yep. Okay. Good. For some reason, it said my something. I don't know. I don't know what it's doing. It might just be because of the weather outside. It might have just had a brain fart. But this is from Preservation Resource Center of New Orleans. I'm gonna close that one. All right, here we go. So what really happened at the Lalaurie house? And the myth is 1140 Royal Street, New Orleans is the most haunted house, a claim made by many French Quarter ghost tours. So the fact is, Edward de Fawcett in 1831 sold an unfurnished residence to Dr. and Mrs. Louis Lalaurie. They completed the house, which was 2 stories, likely of exposed brick in the Federal architectural style. On April 10th, 1834, a fire destroyed the house and revealed horrific treatment of their slaves by the Lalauries. The cook started the fire, and what the fire did not destroy, New Orleanians did when they saw the evidence of an inhumane treatment of the slaves. In 1838, the house was described in Retrospect of Western Travel as in its ruined state. In 1838, the present house was built by Charles Chaffin by Pierre Trestor as evidenced by a lawsuit. The 3-story stuccoed house was executed in the Empire style during the Reconstruction era. It served as an integrated school. So in the 1880s, the building was a conservatory of music. The 1885 historical sketchbook and guide to New Orleans referred to as Haunted House Royal Street and said from the observatory, one gets the finest views of the lower part of the city, for it is the highest point in the French town, excepting, of course, the cathedral towers. In 1892, the Daily Picayune, I don't know if I'm saying that right, referred to it, referred to it as the haunted house. From 1923 to 1932, it was run as the Warrington House to help indigent men. The house has gone through many owners over the year. Among the most famous, Nicolas Cage bought the house 2006 for 3.4 million, but soon ran into financial troubles and he lost it in foreclosure. So that tells a little different story. Okay. I'm glad you guys can hear me. I don't know, my browser said it lost connection with my mic. So I was like, but it's telling me. So, um, not quite, but not quite. This husband lived. All right, let me see. Did you guys have any questions? I want to make sure I didn't miss any good ones. All right, I'm gonna go down here. Um, let's see, make sure we have multiple witnesses and sources claiming there were violations of slave cruelty laws, but only one source claiming that things were magnitude beyond. The parts seem easy enough to untangle. Secretly returning to no appears to be based on a single antidote that in and of itself also contained, and of course we forbid her from going back, so that should be in high be in the highly unlikely character category. Yeah, I'd argue. Are you uh uh yeah, but okay. I got more, Morg. I have more. I do, really. I know I'm beating around a bush, but I gotta include all this stuff first because then you don't get it when I gotta tell you all the good stuff, right? But, all right, so you guys all hear me. Pick onion. Mm, that sounds very Cajun. Okay, I'm not gonna say it again though. That's it. All right, guys. I know my pronunciation of stuff, you don't know how many times a day that I use Google to help me pronounce things properly. All right, so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna pop up this photo. I'm gonna get my notes. I'm gonna get some Diet Coke here because I need some Diet Coke. It's a Diet Coke, guys, not a beer. It's really a Diet Coke. I'm gonna put my big old long straw in here too, because all right. Now we gotta scoot back up. Okay, here we go. All right, I gotta look at my notes. So far, what we've learned, Madame Lalaurie, she lived in the original house. that was built 1831. Soon after it was built or started to be built, she and her husband, her 3rd husband, Doctor Lalaurie, they purchased this home. History Channel says that he purchased the home. Remember that. However, she's the one with the money in this situation, and I'm gonna go through all her marriages. There's just 3 of them. So, but, so this house, it was built, they finished it off when they bought it. And Tiff, he had some pretty impressive credentials. He went to medical school, I think it was the Medical School of Toulouse, and he studied at some pretty fancy schools in France. He did have some competition in New Orleans, and it looks like he was trying to lean toward orthopedics, which at that time, talking like, uh late 1820s, early 1830s, there wasn't, like, orthopedic medicine. There wasn't even a school for orthopedic medicine, which we're gonna kinda talk about some of that too, that maybe we can explain some of the screams that neighbors heard from the Lalaurie Mansion. So, I'm gonna pop down. I've got so many notes. Alright. So, what we've learned, this original mansion burned down 1834, pretty much nothing left. So the house that stands there now is not the original structure. So we can already discount, uh, so we know there's attic space here. So that part could still be true. There could still be enslaved people that were tortured, put up, right, locked up there. However, this would not have the house that stands there now is not the house that would have happened in. Um, and clips, yes, this is where breaking bones and resetting them wrong originated. This is yeah. So keep that in the back of your mind because I found that very interesting too, but we're gonna, it's all yeah, it's coming. So the Lalauries, after the house fire, they did leave. They left New Orleans. A new house was built, and like I said, that's the house that is there now. It's exchanged hands many times. However, stories started to be written many years after the fact. None of these stories were written by the people who actually were there at the time. These were secondhand accounts, and they may have been sensationalized. May have been. And as we know, like I've talked about before, right? This was the period of time when it wasn't so much you didn't have to report the facts, you had to report something that would get your papers sold. So these were journalists that weren't really interested in conveying the truth so much as selling the papers and getting people to read the papers, right? So they're gonna tell whatever they think is gonna catch enough, right? That's gonna get them enough attention to get their paper sales, which also could be a reason why ghost tours there's a lot of ghost tours in New Orleans, a lot of them. They're all competing. They've all gotta have a good story, and whoever has the best story, those are the tours that are gonna make more money, those are the right. And just like with the newspapers. So you can see kind of how or why, at least in my head, it makes sense, so hopefully I'm conveying this right. You can see how, like, a story like, yes, there's truth there. She did live on this street corner, and there was a fire. She did own enslaved individuals. She probably wasn't a very good mistress to her enslaved people, like many of unfortunately, Unlike many of the people in New Orleans, there are so many accounts. I mean, these enslaved people, there were revolts going on and so many things. So she's not the only one. Still doesn't make her a good person, but so that's where I'm gonna go. That's where I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start giving you a little backstory on Delphine, and hopefully we'll kind of peel back some of this. Like I said, it's kind of a big stinky onion. Where it's taken place in a period of our history that people now we're really ashamed of, and people wanna forget about it, right? But we can't forget about this stuff because if we forget about it, we're not gonna learn we gotta learn from our mistakes. We know this happened. It's unfortunate, but we gotta learn from it. We know this stuff happened. Let's not forget about it. Let's still talk about it. Keep it out. This is history. You're not gonna know what motivated these people unless you start to look into their history. So that's what we're gonna do with Delphine. So, with a little context for the family, so her name is Marie Delphine Macarty, and in all the records, according to the European civil law that governed Louisiana at the time that she lived there, in all the records, her maiden name appears as well as her married names. So she would have her it would say Delphine Macarty, wife of L. Lalaurie. Her husband was Louis Lalaurie, and or else it would say Delphine Lalaurie née Macarty. So they always had their maiden name in there, so it's really easy to track these. And the records that I found, that's exactly how they stated. So I know exactly where she was. It's very easy to find her. If you guys any of you get on ancestry.com, just type in her name and her details. I there's the amount of slave records that pop up, eh, gave me a really bad upset stomach because there's a lot of them. She did a lot of, well, we'll find out why she had a lot of slaves in her name and why a lot were sold, and we'll get to the bottom of that part too, because this is stuff I never knew about. Like, this opened up a whole different part of history getting into this ghost story. It wasn't just about picking out the truth of the ghost story, but it also kind of brought to light a lot of the things that, um, I don't wanna say shady, but yeah, I guess they were shady practices that were going on in this period. But, so we'll start with her family. The Macartys originated in Ireland. They were actually the McCarthys, and at some point in time, they left Ireland, they went to France because of political conflict with England, and that's when the name changed from McCarthy to McCarty. And then from France, the family immigrated to French-controlled Louisiana, and they settled in La Nouvelle Orleans, which is New Orleans. They were a wealthy, very large, and socially powerful family, and they were interconnected with other elite colonial families by I mean, they all married within each other, so they all knew each other. They were very well connected. Now, her grandfather, Bartholomew Daniel McCarty, he was the first to build a plantation on the Mississippi River, and it was just below New Orleans, and it was about 172 acres. And when he died in 1781, the according to law, his estate was split equally among his surviving children. And one of those children was Delphine's father, and his name is Louis Bartholomew McCarty, and he inherited part of this plantation. He also had a very distinguished military career, and I am hoping I pronounce this right because I practiced it over and over, but he was a knighted chevalier. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Now it doesn't sound great quite right. Knighted Chevalier of the Royal Military Order of St. Louis. and later on, he was known as Louis Chevalier Macarty. Her mother was Marie Jean Lara Bell? Yeah, Lara Bell, and she was the wealthy widow of a man named Charles Lecomte. And Louis and Jean married in 1776, and when she came to the marriage, Jean brought a lot. She was when I say wealthy, she she had it. Like, he only got I think he had, like, 4 or 5 brothers, sisters that he had to split a plantation with, right? Chev I think it's Chevalet. Nah, you got what I meant though, right? Right, Tiff? I came close. I practiced it last night like 100 times, and I thought, I'm gonna get that right." But, yeah, I still didn't. But anyway, so her mother, she was married prior to Louis, and she had 1 daughter with her first husband. Now, when her husband passed away, she owned a large indigo plantation. We've kinda talked about the indigo plantations before, but she had a huge fortune, like, she was rich, and she was also rich in another way. She had a lot of enslaved people that she brought into the marriage. So, Louis didn't really have a whole lot when he married Jean. She's the one that had all the money. So, when they married, they had 2 children. Louis Barthélemy Jr., he was born in 1783, and then we have Marie Delphine, and she was born March 17th, 1787. But Delphine wasn't baptized in the her recorded date was recorded as 1793, and this usually they would be privately baptized at home, and then later it would be recorded in the church records because they probably thought she wasn't gonna survive infancy. So if they thought a child was weak, wasn't gonna make it, they would get them baptized pretty quickly, and then later on, they'd worry about going and having it formalized at church. So in 1794, uh, Delphine's father, Louis, he expanded the plantation into sugar and cotton, and the family was kinda known for these extravagant summer parties, and they were a little risque. The women would, gosh, ugh, this doesn't seem appropriate for the time period to me, but I do have to remember that they're French and not of English descent, like, things that were probably happening in the English colonies, uh, a lot different than in the French colonies. But the ladies would, strip down to their chemise, so those little nightgown see-through thingies that they wore underneath their big old day dresses, they would strip down to those and go bathe in the broad daylight with the gentlemen there, and they'd go jump in the creek, leaving nothing to the imagination. Delphine's mother, Jean, was known to be very vivacious, a very lovely woman, and she apparently there was a lot of, one one letter a gentleman wrote to his wife who was back home in France, I think she was, said there was a lot of running about and kissing at these parties. So, I don't know what that meant back in, like, 1790s, but I think that's risque. For chemise, oh my, I know. Like, I read that and I was like, "Holy crap, really?" And then they said sometimes that there wouldn't be much water in the creek, so the women had more mud on them than water, and I'm like, "Were they mud wrestling?" I'm like, "This is I don't know, guys. There was some stuff going on back then. Yeah. So, but this it wasn't just their family. Apparently, this was pretty much the culture on the plantations during this time. It was wild and fun, nothing like the English colonies, right? I see French cowboys. And it does. It gets very hot down in the South in the summertime. So, yeah, the girls had to do something. I mean, otherwise, they're walking around in those big old dresses, all those layers. It's hot, it's humid. Um, yeah. So, I mean, I don't blame them. 'em. I'd be jumping in the creek too, but it sounds like some mud rustling was going on there, but which, hey, I didn't think they did that stuff back then, but apparently they did. So, now I'm gonna get into just kinda touch base on this because we do have to understand this part when it comes to slavery and racial customs in colonial Louisiana. It's very different from the English colonies, like, in America. So, it was pretty common practice for these wealthy, elite white men to take women of color, enslaved or free, because there were free women of color in colonial Louisiana. And of course, children often came of these relationships. The difference is with these children, they were often acknowledged in baptismal records by the fathers, by their white fathers. They were provided for in their wills. And these women were known as hang on. Oh, I got it itchy. Um, these women were known as concubines, which I never knew that was a term for that they still used then, but they did. They would have households, these men would set them up, their mistresses, their concubines, they would set them up in homes. They would often cared appeared to care greatly for these women and the children from these women, and Delphine's father was no exception, neither were her uncles. So, her father had several brothers, and all of them participated in this system as well. So her father had at least one child with a mistress, and her uncles had a lot, a lot. The one exception to all this was Delphine's brother. He actually never, well, as far as they know, as far as records would show, he never married, but he did have a woman. She was white. That was his mistress that he did have children by, but he never married her. And some scholars and non-scholars speculate that maybe this environment was what may have influenced Delphine to be cruel to the slaves that she owned. A lot of times, most of the cruelty to these slaves, from what I was reading, the women, the wives of these men, there was a lot of jealousy because sometimes these women, they didn't set up separate households from them. These women sometimes lived in the same household with the men and their wives, and these children would grow up side by side with their white children. So the legitimate children from their wives, and this created some conflict. So there would be anger, resentment, jealousy, and a lot of these women, there's multiple reports of the mistress of the household, the wife, taking out punishment on the mistress of her husband, um, and horrible things happening to the woman, to the children from this woman, from the relationship of the master of the house, right? So these are things that Delphine would have been witness to. I don't her mother was actually dead by 1807. Some reports say, some of them like to tell you that she died as a result of a slave revolt, sorry about that. So she died as a result there was a slave revolt, which that's not true. She presumably just died of natural causes. This is Louisiana, this is the South, summertime. We're talking about hot, humid. there's yellow fever, there's all kinds of nasty stuff, right? After she passes away, this is when Louis, Delphine's father, entered into a relationship with a free woman of color, and this is when he produced another daughter, and her name was Delphine Emesse Macarty, or Emis I think it's Imazay. Yeah, Imazay, I'm sorry, I said it wrong the first time, Imazay, and she went by Imazay, not Delphine, but her godparents were her half-brother and sister, so Delphine and her brother Louis were the godparents of this child. And now we get to the part when of Delphine's first marriage. Delphine is just barely 14 years old. Just barely, like, just a few weeks into being 14 years old. And it's 1800. She marries Ramon Lopez Angelo de la Candelaria, and I'm murdering that. Forgive me. Uh, I'm gonna refer to him as Lopez from here on out, 'cause that's easy. And he was, 35 years old. He was a widower, and he was a high-ranking Spanish native. He was second in command to the Spanish governor at the time, the Spanish governor of Louisiana. He'd been sent there just the year before in 1879, he and his wife, Borgia, and Borgia died on the way, on the voyage. She did not make it to Louisiana. And Lopez was this affected him greatly. This caused a lot of animosity for him with the Spanish government because he blamed Borgia's death on the fact that he was sent to Louisiana. Apparently, he did not want to go to Louisiana, which is odd because later he's fighting to get back to Louisiana, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So, here is Lopez. He's new to New Orleans. He's pretty recently widowed. It's not sure how this marriage came about between a 35-year-old man and a 14-year-old girl, but back in these days, a girl was considered a woman by age 12 as long as she had reached puberty. That was enough for her to be married. And I'm gonna take a drink right now because I don't know about some of you ladies, but my stomach kinda churns with this, but I know it was the times. So they're not sure if this marriage was something that, her parents arranged with him to get Delphine married to him, or if there was something more that may have happened, because there is a letter that from a priest that Lopez spoke to, and he told the priest that it was a matter of honor and conscience that he perform a marriage ceremony between he and Delphine as quickly as possible. And he did it so quickly that Lopez forgot to obtain royal permission to marry Delphine. Now, in these times, since Lopez was part of the government, he was, right, second in command to the Spanish governor. He had to obtain royal permission before he married a local woman because at this time, they didn't really want their high-ranking government officials, they didn't want them marrying these local women. They didn't want them even really consorting with too many of them. They didn't want them getting close because these are the people they're governing. They don't want them being too close with them, right? Because they thought, "Oh, then they're gonna let things slide. They're gonna let them do things that we don't want them." We want them to be tough And if they've got local wives, those women have families, and they're probably not gonna do the things that we want them to do. So this was a big no-no. And the fact that Lopez knew this, but he still married Delphine anyway, seems to maybe this matter of honor and conscience that he was having trouble with. Maybe it was because he'd maybe gone a little too far with Delphine at some point, maybe more than, like, running around and kissing kind of sort of thing. But whatever the reason was, he married her, and the ceremony was low key. The priest was asked to keep it quiet, but unfortunately, he couldn't keep it quiet. Lopez did actually write after the wedding. He told the wrote to the Spanish king and said, "Hey, look, this has happened. It you know, it happened. It's okay, blah blah blah." Well, that didn't work out for the king was pretty ticked off. So in 1802, Lopez was ordered back to Spain. And the king, you know how it is with these guys, right? Like you just follow the rules and they won't get mad at you. And Lopez broke a really important rule. And Delphine joined her husband. She traveled with him back to Spain and they lived there for 2 years. And Lopez was demoted. He was given a low-ranking clerical job. It sucked. He was unhappy. He was kind of noted as being a little bit of a he was kinda whiny. He wrote all these letters to every friend he could think of that was in the government to ask, the king, "Hey, look, he's repented, he's very sorry for what he did. Can we reinstate him?" Because before he didn't wanna go to Louisiana, but now he wants to go back to Louisiana because now he's working a crappy job. He's like, "Well, shoot, I had it better in Louisiana. I wanna go back there." So he's writing all these people to help him get his job back in Louisiana. Well, in 1804, that did happen. He was pardoned. The king said, all right, you've learned your lesson." And he appointed him as the Spanish consul to the US. Because at this time, Louisiana was now under the US's control, the Americans' control. So he was supposed to go and be part of the Spanish Council in New Orleans. Unfortunately, poor Lopez, uh, they were making this it took a long time for these people to get from one point to another. But in 1805, I believe it was January 1805, Lopez and Delphine were making their way back to Louisiana. Their ship hit a sandbar outside of Havana, Cuba, and the ship capsized, and Lopez is not sure how he died, but he either drowned or some sort of misfortune, heart attack, something happened to him, he didn't survive it. But Delphine did, and she was really pregnant at this time. She was, like, really close to having their first and it's the only child that they know that she had with him. If she had, other pregnancies, they were never noted. But their daughter's name was Marie Delphine Francisca Borgia Lopez, and the name Borgia, you may sound a little familiar. That was Lopez's first wife, and this was pretty common, and I think this says something a little bit about Delphine that she named their daughter and this is what they called her daughter went by Borgia, that she named her after her husband's first wife, right? The wife that he lost that he cared so much about. So I think that says something about her. Maybe she wasn't completely heartless, but, you would think that he's gone now. She wouldn't doesn't necessarily have to name her kid after, the first wife, right? But she still does, and after Delphine gives birth there, in Havana to her baby daughter, and she quickly soon as she can, she's back to New Orleans, and she is living with her parents because, unfortunately, Lopez didn't make any sort of plans for his government pension or anything. Like I said, he was working a low-level clerical job in Spain. They didn't have a lot of money, so pretty much Delphine was left almost destitute, and there wasn't any money, and she wasn't gonna get an income, there wasn't gonna be anything from the government, like a for his pension. So, she pretty much had to go back to her parents and live there, and her daughter went under the guardianship of her father, Louis. He paid for all her bills, saw to her education, all of the things, Grandpa Louis took care of. Now, a few years later, when Delphine is 20, so she's still a young lady, she meets a man named Jean Black. Blanc, I'm sorry, Blanc, not Black, and he's a pretty wily character. He was a merchant, he was a lawyer, he was a slave trader, he was a state legislator, and, I mean, basically, he's just a wheeler and dealer. Whatever he could do, sell, buy, sell, he was doing. So, yeah, he was up to all of this stuff. He was also associated with the pirates Jean and Pierre Lafitte, which I don't know a lot about them, but I've heard them mentioned a lot because I have been down to New Orleans, and, you can't I mean, Lafitte's Black Shop is one of the bars right down there on Bourbon Street, so that's about I just know he was a pirate. He's supposed to have gold hidden all over the place down there, like all these plantations and stuff, but, um, he and, um Blanc, they were in business together. They were part of the illegal slave trade, and I'll talk about that real quick. Because the US had control of Louisiana, so they went from what was I guess if you looked at it, the control that the French and then the Spanish had, they expected people to treat their slaves decently. They weren't allowed to do harsh treatment. They weren't allowed to shackle them or beat them to any degree. Like, they were I mean, you could punish them, but you could not severely beat them. They a slave under Spanish and French rule, if they wanted to they could be contracted out and they could seek work on their own and work other places, and it was kind of up to their owner whether or not they got to keep that money, but they could still go out and work or seek work on their own. Whether that's better treatment, I don't I guess it's a little better because then they weren't being beat and abused so much like they were, unfortunately, under the American system, because even though the Americans had abolished the slave trade, they weren't treating their slaves well at all. Pretty much, the master could do whatever he wanted to, short of killing their slave, and even most of the time then, they could usually get away with it because there wasn't really who would have been the witness to the beating or to the murder. It would have been the slave. They're not gonna believe a slave. They're gonna believe the owner over the slave. So, really, saying that you can't do this or that, I mean, if you're not gonna believe the person being beat, then there's why even have a rule at all? So, as you can kinda see, these standards are I mean, they're not being treated very well. under any of the systems, maybe under the Spanish and French, they had a little bit more freedom, had a little bit better of care, but these they still were beaten. Things still happened under the Spanish and French just as they did under the Americans. But the bad thing was when the Americans abolished the slave trade, it just made it, more profitable for men like Jean Blanc and the Laffittes, because they started smuggling in, slaves from Africa. And as the records show, Blanc had his wife, Delphine, selling slaves for him, and they would sell them out and they would exchange hands. I think this was kind of a little bit like laundering money, but maybe like laundering slaves. Like they would sell them multiple times to different people and then they would come back to them sort of situation, which seems to me like maybe they were trying to like lose the paperwork, right? Like let's create this big old trail of paperwork and then maybe they won't notice that these weren't legally obtained uh, slaves. But her husband became very rich off of this. So did the Laffittes. And this is one reason that after the US took over control of New Orleans, the Blanc wanted to remain in New Orleans. A lot of the French, they all wanted to leave. They wanted to go back to France, but he's like, "Ah, no, this is pretty profitable for me. I'm gonna stay here." And this is about the time when Delphine married, uh, Blanc. Just 4 weeks prior to that, her mother passed away, and this made Delphine a very highly prized bride because, as we learned from when her grandfather passed away, his estate was split up between her father and his siblings. Well, remember, Delphine's mother was the one that had all the money that came into the family, right? She was the one with the plantation. Her father was managing it for her, and he expanded the holdings, but all that primary money, like the plantation, all of that, that was hers. So that went to Delphine and her brother Louis. So now Delphine's a pretty rich lady, and somebody like Blanc is probably like, "Woo." Like, I like her, right? So it probably didn't even matter if she was a good-looking woman or not. Delphine now owned a plantation of her own. She owned enslaved people of her own. She owned livestock and farm equipment, which, I mean, that doesn't sound like a whole lot. I mean, I own some livestock and some farm equipment, but yeah, doesn't make me that marriageable. But anyway, in 1808, Blanc gifted Delphine, so her husband, gifted her another plantation, which also included more slaves. And the couple divided their time between the plantations and this two-story townhome that they had on it was at 409 Royal Street, and it's still there if I can find it. Hopefully, I can find it. Uh-oh, wait, hang on. I've gone too far in my notes here. There it is. So that's the home that they lived in, and it's still there, and I'm gonna go look the sucker up. So, this is on Royal Street as well, so is the Lalaurie Mansion, and what was typical at the time, like I said, you can see down on the bottom here that there's actually a store on the bottom, and this would have been pretty typical of the time, but at the time, this whole thing was their house, and it was known to be very nice. So, everyone said, like, "Oh, yeah, the Blancs have this big, beautiful this townhome," right? And together, she and Blanc had 4 children between 1809 and 1815. There was I'm just gonna go by their names, but they're all Louise Marie something. So, Louise Marie Pauline, and then there's Laurie, Jean, and Jean Pierre I think that's spelled wrong. I think it's supposed to be, but it's Jean Pierre. And they were all baptized at St. Louis Cathedral. And then I got to, let's see, 1807 was when Jefferson abolished the African slave trade, and Blanc continued smuggling in enslaved people with Jean Lafitte's help. And when he passed away in 1815, 367 enslaved people had passed through his hands at that point. And he died at the age of 50, assuming from natural causes, maybe a fever. It doesn't say what he passed away from. So he was 50. Delphine was only 28. So she's still pretty young. Um, I think that's pretty still pretty young. But now she has 5 children. She has the 4 with Blanc, and then she has the daughter from her first marriage with Lopez. Unfortunately, Blanc, even though he made a lot of money, apparently he spent a lot of money too. And in today's money, he owed $2.5 million dollars in to all sorts of lenders. And Delphine quickly went to legal services. She renounced her marital partnership, which I didn't know this was something you could do. Like, he's dead, but she went and renounced her marital partnership because this would allow her to keep the assets that she inherited from her mother. But unfortunately, even though this did protect her somewhat, it didn't protect her completely, because the portion of Blanc's estate, it didn't cover all the debts, and they still had to come after Delphine, and she ended up having to sell a lot of her enslaved people at auction. She had to sell multiple properties, she had to sell furniture, she had to sell a lot of stuff just so that she could retain one plantation. And let's see, and then according to Blanc's will, really the only thing that, he had asked Delphine, she had to emancipate an enslaved man by the name of Jean-Louis, because he had served him honestly and faithfully, and this man was, like, over 50, probably even older than 50 years old. He was an old man, and Delphine did emancipate him. I found those records. So she did do what was asked of her. Did I have that one here? Is this the one? No, that's not it. That's a birth certificate, but, I should have put these in a better order. Is this the one with, I think this is the one that has, nope, this is sale of slaves. So, there are multiple ones on ancestry.com. I mean, there's gotta be at least 15 or 20 of these pages of where she sold slaves. Some of them she had to sell because of damn it, stop going back to that one. You know what? I put that one in there twice, didn't I? Well, anyway, I do have the record that does say she did give him his emancipation, but she also emancipated at least 2 other enslaved individuals in her in her ownership. One of them was a nanny who had long served her family, the Macarty family, and she was granted her emancipation as well. So she did at least do that. I mean, it doesn't make her a great person. Yeah, I mean, she did had to follow his will, maybe. But so here's Delphine. She's pretty much sold everything she has. She's down to, poor thing, she's only down to 1 plantation now. And it's gotta be pretty rough, but she does have 5 kids that she's gotta worry about, right? And in 1824, her father, Louis, dies, and his estate gets split right down the middle. Half goes to Delphine, half goes to her brother, Louis, And because of this, Delphine is now wealthy. She's got a lot of money. She has now settled all the debts from her second husband, Blanc. She has made some very careful real estate dealings. She's got it. She's got she's got money. She can pretty much do whatever she wants now because her papa's dead. She's got all this money. Um, Even some of her like, her kids are starting to get older now, so they're gonna start getting out of the house, right? But it's probably kind of a lonely life for Delphine, and she's now we're coming up to the point she's 38, so it's been about 10 years since Blanc died, and she's doing okay, right? Like, she's got her plantations, she's living like, earlier in time kinda Scarlett O'Hara. She was considered still, even at 38, they said, even at 38, she's still a good-looking woman apparently for the times. Gotta laugh at that kinda stuff. But, yeah, she was still a beautiful woman even though she was 38. Um, she met her 3rd husband, and this is Leonard Louis Nicholas Lalaurie. He was French born. He was the son of a doctor who was the son of a doctor who was the son of a they were all doctors in his family. Uh He studied at the University of Toulouse, and he set out from France to America to make his fortune. He didn't have any money, guys. So, when they said, right, that um, he bought that house prior to Delphine, that's not true. Mr. Lalaurie didn't ha Doctor Lalaurie didn't have any money, and I'll tell you about it here. So, he leaves France, he goes to hello, everybody. No, I've kinda chat's been pretty quiet for a while. Hello, TF. Hello, Gutters Pub. Hello, Real Baker. Welcome, guys. I know I'm getting close to the end for tonight, though, because this has been a lot. This is a long one. This is gonna be a part 2. So it's 1825, Doctor Lalaurie, he's a handsome young guy, he's a doctor, he's new in New Orleans, and, uh, so he's young, and Delphine's 38, and Lalaurie's only 2 years older than her eldest daughter, who is already married at this time and has 3 children of her own, but somehow they meet, whether it's, maybe they met at a party or I mean, these people like to party, and he got into the society somehow. He was part of the Masonic Lodge. Maybe he met somebody Delphine knew, but whatever it was, he was considered to be kind of a handsome guy. So, and like I said, she's 38, she's still cute. So, and she's rich, which probably made her a little bit cuter, to Lalaurie. And she also had a daughter, Delphine did, Pauline, and she was known to be I don't have yeah, there's not one of him, Tiff, but yeah, he was said to be quite a good-looking guy. I believe he was like an Adonis or something, that's just what I picture, and I picture him with some, like, sharp looking, like Ashley or something from Gone with the Wind, that's what I kinda see, like, I don't know, maybe better looking than that though, because I didn't think he was that cute. I didn't get it. I thought Rhett was better looking, but, I just see, he's probably got some sharp suits, he's probably dressing well enough, even though he doesn't have any money. His dad is sending him money from France, so he's probably doing well enough, but he doesn't have a fortune, so he's not buying a house, right? Like, he's living in an apartment that his daddy's paying for right now, and he's trying to get a practice started up, it's not working. He's working out of an apothecary shop on occasion, like a couple days a week, trying to get, and that's right, Tiff, he's gotta be, because why is a rich woman gonna pick an she gonna pick an ugly dude? She could have her pick of. right? She's wealthy. It doesn't matter if she's cute or not. She's got money, like a lot of money. And he's kind of like a struggling doctor. He's cute. He wants more out of life. He goes to America, right? Like he's going to the new world to, right? He wants something better. And he doesn't want necessarily to be, how do I say it? Like, he doesn't want his daddy paying his way. So, like I said, he's setting up this business. He wants to get it or his practice. He's dabbling in orthopedics, which it's not really a thing yet. There's nothing, there's no schooling for this. So it's something that he's probably got to play around with a little bit, right? And um maybe he's reading some books or magazine art. I don't know how they would have learned back then, but he's doing something. He thinks he knows now how to do orthopedics, right? And let me I like tips like she was like, I want, I want to see his picture. Um, are you guys watching from oh no, don't watch me. All right. I'm gonna keep going here so I can eventually I'm gonna wrap this part up. I think I'm getting close though. But okay, here we go. So Delphine's daughter, Pauline, she has a curved spine, and they said possibly scoliosis. I'm gonna say that it probably maybe it is scoliosis. I don't know what other curvature. Oh, where'd my notes go? I don't know what else would give you a curvature of the spine, but the treatments for this at the time would have been really primitive, and they would have been something like I'm gonna show you I've kind of popped the photos back and forth a couple times. You guys probably already saw them. This is one of them, and as you could tell, that looks like some kind of freaking torture device, like, I don't like, drawn and quartered. It's rough. So this is one of the ways that they would have tried to fix a curved spine. So this is something Lalaurie thought he could help cure. And Delphine had a daughter who had this condition. So maybe this is how they met, but at some point he was living at her plantation. And after he moves in, this is when the reports of screams, painful, barbaric sounds coming from their home, which have been attributed to her abusing her slaves. But unfortunately, it may be because they wwere trying to, right? They gotta fix her daughter because her daughter's not perfect, so they gotta fix her, right? So let's stretch her out because that's gonna work. Uh, I can see I mean, hey, if it's with consent, you guys do what you wanna do, right? Like Baker says, "Yeah, looks like a good time." If it's consensual, you do what you wanna do, but this does not look very does not look pleasant to me. Um, and he did write they did his personal papers did say that he worked with, and this is sad, a hunchback patient. And this is probably what they would have called Pauline at the time. So you can imagine a woman of Delphine's standing in society, right? She's gonna want her daughters to have she's gonna want them to get married. She's gonna want to have them marry well. And a hunchback daughter probably isn't a good look. So seeking out somebody that says he can help, she's probably gonna take that help. And this is a device that's supposed to help. I don't know where the bottom of that thing goes. I don't wanna know. Uh, I don't wanna know what that is. That looks I don't know. There's a some sort of metal piece that goes up under her armpit. It looks like it's attached to this piece of metal on her hip, but there's something that goes down to her butt there. I don't know. It looks awful, but if you're thinking that this is a young lady, because I think her daughter would have been, like, maybe 15 or 16, 18 at this time, the elder one's married, so I think that's about right. This had to be extremely, extremely painful, so when I think about yeah, after her hearing screaming and things of that nature coming from the Lalaurie home or well, I'm sorry, at that time, it was still Delphine's home. This may be a reason for it. And when they said that they found what looked like torture devices in the Lalaurie mansion after it had caught on fire and burned, I'm wondering if some of those, what they thought were torture devices were something along these lines because like you know, he wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. This was not like a known, uh, right? This wasn't a separate medical profession at the time. Uh, This probably would've looked really odd if somebody stumbled into your basement in 1834, right? If they would've stumbled in your basement and saw this, and they're like, "What the hell are you what y'all got going?" Hell, I would look at people weird now if I stumbled into their basement and I saw a table with all yeah. I mean, you'd wonder, you'd have questions, right? And they're probably not even thinking of the fact that, well, Delphine had a daughter, they wouldn't know that they were trying to fix something on her daughter. I think it's very likely that I mean, this is very barbaric what they're doing to her own child, but they probably did a lot of this stuff that they thought that was they were gonna fix their kid, right? There's probably a lot of this stuff that was going on back then. So, Lalaurie and Delphine, they're not married, but he is living at her plantation, and in 1827, Delphine gives birth to a son, Jean-Louis Leonard Lalaurie, and then in January 1828, Delphine and Lalaurie marry, and apparently this is not a big deal still in this society. Uh, Lalaurie is recorded as, John Louis's father, so I mean, he's on the baptismal record, everything is I mean, it's just treated kind of above board. One thing is he did not wanna tell his father. His father seemed to think that this was a very good relationship that he had gotten into with an as what I think his father said it was a older patroness, is what he called her. He thought it was very good that he had a motherly figure looking out for him and, yeah, allowing him to live at her place. His father, a silly old man, didn't realize that there was something else probably going on here, right? Because yeah. And when, Laurie's mother died, he was supposed to receive part of her estate. It was supposed to be her half of the estate was supposed to be split between himself, I think a brother and a sister. So he was supposed to get a third of his mother's estate, and I think it was about like $2,000 in those days, so I don't know what that comes out to now, but probably quite a bit. But his father said, no. If you need the money, I'll give you what I think you need out of it." So dad sounds like he's kind of a control freak, right? Like, he's not gonna give this money straight up to his son. He's gonna kinda dish it out as he sees fit, sort of thing. But under the law, he's technically entitled to it. Um, but at this time so Delphine is now 40 years old, and, Lalaurie Dr. Lalaurie, he's just 25. But at the time, Delphine is worth about $1.5 million in today's money. So, he doesn't have anything, she's got all the money. And Delphine, like I said, she was already a grandma at this time. Her eldest daughter, Borgia, had three children. And then this is when in 1831, this is when she I mean, she technically purchases the Royal Street Mansion, and this is the Lalaurie Mansion. And we've already talked a little bit about it, so I won't harp on it too much, but yes, 1831, Delphine purchased this townhouse, this mansion. It had 2 stories, an iron balcony. It was the American architectural style, not sure what that means, and it was lavishly furnished because she was a millionaire. Uh, the residents that lived there would have been the 4 Blanc children that she had by her 2nd marriage, and then her youngest son, Jean-Laurie Lalaurie, oh my gosh, I'm getting all tongue-tied. Hang on, Diet Coke break. So 5 of her children were living there. The eldest daughter was married and out of the house. And then, of course, Delphine and Dr. Lalaurie were living in the house. Now, they were said to host extravagant parties, and Delphine spent her money very she spent it. And so did her husband, Dr. Lalaurie. He didn't earn very much as a doctor, and he probably wasn't working that much as a doctor either. So they lived off of her money. And trouble started in the marriage pretty quickly. And by 1832, Delphine requested a separation of what is called separation of body and goods. And this was it took a lot. It's still I mean, it's not a divorce, but it's pretty darn close to it. But still, women in this period, they couldn't get divorces like, uh, they just couldn't get divorces. It was really hard for them to prove that their husband was something was going on, right? Like, it had to be some extreme cruelty going on, things of that nature. Uh, but a but a man, when he wanted to divorce his wife, it was pretty easy. Right? Like, there could be any number of reasons. She didn't even really have to prove some of them, but a woman, if she had to prove this stuff. And she claimed that Lalaurie was he had beat her and that he had wounded her, and he had abandoned her, and he was living in another parish somewhere outside of New Orleans, so he wasn't even living in the home anymore. No one knows for sure what he was up to when he was living there. Maybe he had a somebody else. Who knows? Maybe that's why she was mad. But, she did get her separation, so this way it also protected her fortune. So he couldn't come back and take her money because this money is really all hers. This is what I don't know if she's worked hard for it. I mean, she did inherit most of it, but, yeah, it's still her money, not his. So this did protect her from him coming and, like, taking her money. But whatever was going on with Delphine and Lalaurie, oh goodness, they they kept reconciling. They'd get back together, they'd split up. This went on between 1832, 1834. They had multiple separations, multiple reunions, and that's getting us right up to 1834 when the fire occurs, which Dr. Lalaurie was living at that time with Delphine in the home. So the last thing I'm gonna touch on is just I kinda talked about it a little bit already, but I'm just gonna talk about, just real quick, go over these because the second part, I'm gonna talk about the fire, and hopefully you guys can already see some of the differences from the ghost story that they like to tell versus what's actually happening, what actually probably happened. So, I was able to find I was able to back up a lot of this, like, with the sale of the slaves. There's so many records of her selling, and buying. She had emancipated, at least 3 that popped up easily for me when I looked on genealogy.com. She there's a lot of records available, shockingly, for this period in time. Like, I can't get that many records for my family that lived during this time, so I'm really shocked. New Orleans, kudos to you for keeping track of your records, especially with them changing hands so frequently from America to from from the French to the Spanish to the Americans, right? And I already touched a little bit on, like, these laws that governed enslavement. And yeah, Tiff, right? Like, he had somebody out in the country, right? And Delphine probably didn't want her money going to pay for some other woman. But they did say during this time, this was when her her attitude changed completely. She became very miserable to be around, to put it mildly. She They know for sure she wasn't kind to her slaves. She wasn't kind to her children even. There were reports, of her even, like, beating her kids, beating her slaves, just is sounds like her temper. She was a little out of control, and whether this had something to do with having she has this younger husband, maybe he's out in the country doing God only knows what, and she's like, uh, loses her fricking marbles, right? And that doesn't make it right, but we see a huge shift because there's up until she marries him, there's nothing. No one's saying anything about her mistreatment of her kids, of her slaves. There's nothing. Nothing has happened up until this point he until she is married to him. So that's when the big shift happens. And yeah, there people start noting she does get into a little bit of trouble a few times for her harsh treatment. And this is I'm just gonna kinda touch on these real quick. There's a lot, and I've kept you guys here a while. But, so like I said, with the changes with enslaved people, there were the French and the Spanish. Their rules were quite a bit maybe a little easier. They were still enslaved people. It sucked. Um, there was what they called, the French had 1724, the Code Noir. And this forbade killing or mutilation of enslaved people, but it did allow whipping and the use of irons. So like I said, it's not like it was any better. And then under the Spanish, they had oh gosh, here we go. Código Negro, and it allowed physical punishment. However, there was a lot of exceptions. They couldn't use they were very limited on what things, like, they could beat their slaves with, which I'm not laughing because it's funny, I'm laughing because it's freaking ridiculous. Like, you could still beat your slaves, but you just can't beat them with this kind of BS, right? Um, but it did under the Spanish. Now, enslaved people were permitted to petition to be sold away from cruel masters. So, they could petition for the government to come in, check out the situation, and they could be sold to a different master. Now they weren't set free, they just were allowed to go to a different master. So, I don't know how many times this probably occurred. I guess that master would have to be pretty damn awful because, like that old saying, right? Like, devil better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So, I don't know how many times this happened under the Spanish laws, but, um, yeah. I mean, things still sucked for them. It's not good anywhere anyway. And then the American Code comes in, we're talking 1806 to about 1825, and this really didn't yeah, we got s America, we got some yeah, do better. This provided minimal protection for slaves. Just I mean, there was they could do pretty much whatever they wanted. Owners could punish their enslaved people as harshly as they wanted to, and that was their right. That was their property, they could do whatever they wanted to 'em. Um, and enslaved people so, like I said so somebody like, you're beating your slave, and somebody says, she's beating her, let's see, her nanny. Like, she beat her nanny. Her nanny told me that, and then they go to the nanny and go, "Ma'am, did your master beat you?" Well, guess what? They can't even ask her that because the enslaved person, they can't testify against their white owners. So, a lot of times when these situations would be brought up to the authorities, right, they go to the enslaved person isn't gonna be allowed to testify because that wasn't allowed. So, when the owners there was no prosecution, so nothing would happen. People would come and say, "Hey, I think there's something going on there," and then they'd show up at the house, right? And then the slaves are like, "Well, we can't say anything." So, thinking about this, all the times that Delphine did not get caught, maybe there was some shady maybe she was beating the crap out of her slaves, maybe she was beating the crap out of her kids. Um, there's a reason why it didn't get reported, but they could still if she was caught now, if, like, say, somebody saw her doing this, well, that's a different story because that's a witness. So they could take her slaves away, she would have to pay a fine, and then those slaves would be sold away from her, which that did occur, and then I don't think I have that right here, or do I? Maybe I don't. Oh, wait, hang on. I have to look here. Um, let me look. What did I have for them? Bum. So her first cruelty accusations that began in 1828, and then it was the 1834 fire that revealed tortured enslaved people. Um, so slaves could be sold, would be removed, and could were removed and sold away from their abusive owners. They weren't freed. They were just sold to someone else, who probably still wouldn't treat them very well. And at the time, well, let's see, between 1816 and 1834, Delphine owned at least 54 enslaved men, women, and children. She emancipated several, and at least 2 of them, one was Jean-Louis, who was the old man that was, like, way over 50 years old that her second husband, Blanc, wanted her to emancipate, and then another was Helene, and she was, the nurse or nanny, and she did that in 1828, and it was her reasoning was cited for faithful service, and she was an old lady at this time too, guys, so it's not like she was a young woman. She served the Macarty household for generations of children, so she's probably well into her 70s or 80s, right? So, you gotta think, like, they're letting old people they're not gonna let emancipate slaves that could actually do anything, so that's probably one reason they're letting them go, why she didn't mind. Um, and Delphine was not accused of cruelty until after Lalaurie, and let's see, this is when in 1828 there were reports of several of her slaves that appeared bloody and, uh, also that she was imprisoning them. That's the note I made. Okay, and then she goes in front she did have a criminal trial in 1829. but the jury absolved her due to lack of eyewitness testimony. So, once again, we get to this, right? Like, the only witnesses to these reports would have been the slaves themselves. So everything else would have just been hearsay because people would have just said, "Well, I saw blood on him," but, well, did the blood come from being beat by Madame Lalaurie, or how did they get bloody? It doesn't really tell you how they ended up like they were, but they didn't seem to be very well cared for. So Delphine did pay a fine at that time for ill treatment of her slave people, and people were pretty darn pissed off after that. Her neighbors were watching her pretty closely, and, that's where I'm gonna leave it because that's where we start with the house fire. And I saw you yeah, I wondered, Tiff, too. I thought that too, because with morphine and laudanum, right, like, there was a huge ship and he's a doctor. Was he did he prescribe some things to her that, she had a drastic change? Of course, I it's hard to say, like, or did she just snap? Did she just lose it? Like, she's got this younger, handsome husband. She's a little older. Uh, I don't like the idea that they say, like, she's still pretty for for an old she's not that damn old, guys. Um, but yeah, she did I do have some examples of that's where we're gonna leave it at the fire there, but here's one where she did pay this is John Randolph Grimes. He was a pretty this is the 1829 when she did get off, she just paid a fine. Now this Grimes, this lawyer, probably I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, what's our like, maybe, like, I don't know. I don't really wanna say, like, OJ's lawyer, but, lawyers, but he's up there. He was one of those lawyers that, he could get you off of just about anything, and he cost a lot of money, but he was worth it, especially if you were looking at criminal charges, and this guy typically only, um, worked for, some murders and, like, hardcore stuff, right? And Delphine this is a receipt. She paid him money for $300, which that's a lot of money then. I don't know exactly how much, but I know that's a lot in 1829. So, it doesn't really say why what's the reason behind paying it? Did he? Because, like I said, a couple of her cases were dismissed. Did she pay him and then he went and talked to a judge and then the judge dismissed them? I mean, money talks, right? Like, maybe some money exchanged hands sort of thing, but, I mean, this guy is somebody who wasn't handling slave cases. He was handling, like, high profile like, just the big cases, right? He's not handling these little this would have been beneath his notice, but so she had to pay him a lot of money to take care of this for her. So and she did have a lot of money. Yeah, maybe like Alan Jackson. Yeah, but Alan Jackson, I don't think this guy seems a little shady though, like really shady, like a little, like a lot. Like he seems a lot shady. But there was a photo of him, Tiff, and I didn't put it in here. But you know what? Just for you, I'll pop it in here for part two. He wasn't that cute though. I wish there was one of Dr. Lalaurie because they really did talk about how handsome he was. Yeah, I've got an image in my mind. Maybe I'll draw a photo for you guys for the next part. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it. Is at the start of the fire. So we've kind of learned that Delphine she had enslaved people. She sounded like she was maybe kind of losing it here a little bit at the end. We've already found some differences in the reporting of them saying, right, like, they said Dr. Lalaurie bought the mansion. It was Delphine had all the money. She had I mean, honestly, she probably had more control over that fortune than Lalaurie did. He probably kept coming back because she probably stopped paying for stuff, right? Like, I don't know. I'm envisioning this. This could just be just me, but that could be one reason, like, he'd probably come back, and then they'd fight, and then he'd take off again, and, like, I don't know, it just seems like, they had a really messed up relationship, but sounds to me like maybe he did have something going on in the country, maybe she was using something like laudanum to, maybe he gave her something. Maybe he prescribed it to her. I mean, I think you could get that stuff over the counter back then, though. I'd have to look in on that. I'll look that up for next time, but yeah, so next time we'll talk about the fire, what was reported at the time of the fire, and then what kinda starts to get misconstrued after the fire because there's a lot. It's not all as the ghost tours want you to believe, so at this point, I think Delphine probably wasn't a very great person, she probably wasn't a very great slave owner like many of them were. But I'm still on the fence yet as to did this stuff really happen? Like, were limbs like, was there a crab woman? And yeah, we'll get into that next time because there's, some proof that maybe that wasn't the case. So but I'll leave that up to you guys too to think and see what you say, and I won't argue with you. But I'm almost afraid to take another I always take a ghost tour when I go down there. I'm almost afraid to take one this time because I'm telling you, my big mouth's gonna get me. I'll get kicked off the tour group, but usually they end right about at the Lalaurie Mansion. So that's where I'll end it. Maybe I'll just step away from the group, like, when we get to that point, but this is the things that, kinda irritate me the most is when they just, we already know that this house isn't the original house that was there. There's no way, right? Like, they say, "Oh, this is the room they found the slaves in." Well, that room wasn't part of the wouldn't have been part of the house. Now, can the ground be haunted? Oh, definitely. Who knows what, um, right? Like, there was cruel, unusual punishment going on. Maybe even her kids are still like, right? If her poor daughter that had scoliosis being put on the frickin' rack in the basement, I mean, lord, I'd probably haunt that place too if my mom did that to me, but yeah, so that's where I'm gonna leave it, oh shoot, and tomorrow night oh crap, I don't have it right in front of me, and I'm starting to look my eyeballs are starting to cross, but tomorrow night, I'm going on Abby Normal, guys, told you that a couple times already. Let me move this here, I get this off of here. Oh, I found this. This reminds me of the guy that came on the other night who was talking about Don Lemon. I had to. I don't know why that popped up. But yeah, um, it's funny how to summon a I think it's supposed to be a demon, but he summoned a lemon. I think that's how I got Tansy. Right, Tans? Yeah. She's just looking at me. She doesn't wanna come on camera anymore, guys. Uh-oh, maybe she is. Tansy, you gonna come up? You can come say bye-bye? Yeah, she said no. Alright, guys. I will put the link up for tomorrow night because 'cause we'll be over with TF and everybody else over on Abby Normal, so you guys can come over, give me some moral support. I'm sure I'll FUBAR or something, but hopefully not too terrible. So, you guys come join me, and yeah, and then I'll do part 2 oh, shoot, and OB's live, so we gotta go see Oblivious Benson as well, so I wish I knew how to redirect or else I'd take us all there too, but, yeah. I'll post that link for tomorrow night, and Sunday night, I'll finish up with part 2. It'll be real short, and then we'll tell some ghost stories after that, I think, so, alright, guys, thank you for being here, I appreciate ya. I know this was a little long and drawn out, but I'm learning. I'll get better. Maybe. I hope. Alright, guys, I'm gonna cleanse ya real quick, alright? Ready? So I always say ready, and then I know I'm not, like, I'm too slow. Here we go. Alright, and I forgot oh, got too close to my mic again. I forgot to let you guys know that there is a new outro. So I don't know if you guys noticed it last time, but I threw my horses in. They demanded it. So here you go. You guys can watch the horses.